Wellity. Fancy seeing you here. Thanks for tuning in yet again to another Talking Out Loud with me, George Cressy. Really miserable day here in Bristol. The perfect time to do an intro to a pod. Now this pod recorded back in August of 2019 and comes from the very same pub 1 year on from where the Whine Curve podcast was recorded. So do listen back to that to get a sense of where we are. Yet again, a few of us trekked down to Manorbier in Pembrokeshire for Westival. Excellent little festival out there. And this pod is a four-way convo with two friends of the show. Craig Black, who features on the Whine Curve podcast, of course. And of course the latest, Talking Out Loud, is a one-to-one with the man himself, episode 38. And of course Craig Brabble. So the two Craigs make a fine appearance here. Of course Craig, star of his own pod, episode 23. And finally, the star of the pod, and first timer, Ceri Edwards. And really, the focus of this one is getting to know Ceri a little more. Honestly, what a fascinating and lovely chap he is. We get kicked off with a classic round of Where You From, before diving a little deeper into Ceri's history with first off starting around barge life. Ceri himself, somewhat of a waterman, living in a riverboat here in central Bristol. 2235 if you're interested about the combination. Before we dive a bit deeper into what exactly it is that Ceri does as a living, which centres mainly around autism. The autism is certainly the main theme of this pod. And towards the end, Craig Brabble and Ceri take things off road a little bit. They go a little bit Joe Rogan at times, and topics such as AI and consciousness, simulation theory and the Aztecs are thrown into the melting pot. So do give that a listen if you're keen for a bit of existential chat. Tangents are plenty, of course. And this pod's no different. We talk about celebrity culture, the emerging tech at the time, deepfake, and that's potential impact. There's crunches, there's crying babies, handpans. 4 is also pretty tricky to master in podcast form, I found. Just to highlight here, there may well be interruptions aplenty at times, but we work through them. So hopefully you enjoy it. I must say I had an absolute blast recording this one. And as ever, do reach out if you're keen to get involved or have a story you want to put out there. More than happy to have a chat about it. Keep your eyes peeled and there'll certainly be a few more coming your way. But for now, sit back and enjoy. Play it! Start again. Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Talking Out Loud with me, George Cressy. We are back in Manorbier. It's been a year, but less than a year, 11 months I think, since we were last here with obviously Craig Black. Hello again.
Hello, nice to be here.
Also, back then obviously we had Matt Christmas and Sam Tripp.
Who are sadly no longer with us.
And we're joined by two new people to Westival in Craig Brabble.
Every time you get
Every
my name
time, man.
So frustrating.
I struggle.
Been on this podcast 4 times.
And he lives with you.
Barable.
It's Brabble, isn't it? Barable. You're nuts. I'm sorry, man. I get that.
Think of parable, man.
Yeah, Craig Barable.
Barable.
You just say it how you like, I don't mind.
Craig Barable. Welcome again.
Barable from going to like a posh evening dinner.
Gotcha. And a new joiner to the show,
Ceri Edwards.
Ceri
Edwards.
Are you just really bad at saying...
Is it just surnames?
I'm not good at it. Could you just...
Are you cut out for this podcast in Malarkey?
Edwards.
It's not my strongest intro. I'll lead with that one. So I guess the topic is, just a bit more about Ceri, I think. So we'll just intro you a little bit more, just get a bit more in depth. People know about Craig and the other Craig.
Who's the other Craig?
I don't know. It's up to you.
Well, you pointed at Craig and then you pointed at you, the other Craig. So that makes you the other Craig.
Which one's 1 and which one's 2?
No, let's not do that. Let's not actually...
Should we number them?
Well, I could just be Craig Black and you could be Craig Bear.
Craig White.
Oh, nice.
Doesn't really matter if you're...
Yeah. Craig Beard, Craig Hair.
Nice.
Beard is hair.
Craig Hair and Craig Beard.
Proper hair.
People know what that means.
North and south. How about that? You're south and north. My head's on the north.
Alright.
We'll qualify
What
this.
was this shit, but
Yeah, we'll qualify this by having a few beers.
That was about it. I was brainstorming. Sorry.
no, I like it. We're doing this live.
This is great.
Live TV.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Joe Rogan does not do it with more than 2 people, it turns out, because this happens. It's good, though.
Oh, he does.
He struggles, though. He struggles. The more people you get in a podcast, the harder it is. That's just a normal thing.
Let's be quiet now.
It's the same with a party. It's the same with a party. 2's a party, 3's a crowd.
That's not fair.
4's.
4, that's too much. Go home.
4's a lot. A lot of people
trying to
in
say?
the mix.
One of us
7's
needs to go home.
loads. I did a podcast with 12.
12
people.
sounds silly.
20 it ended up being. Because it was around a hostel campfire.
What, everyone spoke?
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah,
It's a terrible podcast.
How do you...
Try and listen to that. It's Party Pod 1, mate.
But I mean, you can
Awful.
have a podcast that has several interviews in it, so then technically you can have a podcast that has X amount of people. But if you're
Correct.
trying to do everything live simultaneously, that just sounds fucking.
It was hard,
Like,
but
how did you stop people from having separate
Oh,
conversations?
they do, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
then
it's
it's sort of just
it's just
conversations
noise.
within conversations.
Yeah.
Oh.
But there's a general thread to it. I don't think anyone really listened to it. Didn't get a lot of reaction from it. Makes sense. So yeah, you got to try these things.
Fair enough.
Or not.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, let's get back to Kerry, huh?
Yeah, let's get back to Kerry. Let's focus in on
About
something.
Kerry.
So, a little bit of background, I guess.
What would you
So,
like to know? How should I...
okay, so name, age, name, and obviously we've done the name. Kerry
Right. Ceri Edwards,
Edwards.
Do you reckon you could use
31,
Perfect. From which part of the world?
Bristol.
Good.
Well,
Interesting.
yeah.
Where
I guess Bristol.
originally Bristol?
No, well, originally outside of London, and then moved to Bristol. when
He's
I
a
was
foreigner like all of us. Stop pretending you're a Bristolian.
nomadic.
Yeah.
That sounds
Good
nicer than foreigner.
And you live on a houseboat?
Yeah, got a canal boat. It's
Delightful.
well, no, I agree with what you say, Craig. Like, I feel like more often now when people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" Huh?
a canal boat?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I think I do like.
Planet Earth.
I connect with that more than like being like, "Oh, I'm a Bristolian," or "I'm from London," or "I'm this," or "I'm that."
Yeah.
Because it's like, it doesn't really.
Connect with anything.
No, not really.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
because
really
I'm not
mean
a mil-
anything
yeah.
much anymore.
It's
I
like,
don't share a shared identity with people from Milton Keynes.
yeah,
particularly.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like. There's not some shared ethos that everyone in Bristol has. It's like it's really
It's so
eclectic. and
transient as a population as well. It doesn't. You don't
Also-
have to feel gravitated and be like invest everything in just where we are because we can choose to be somewhere else.
Well, yeah. This is what I found. Like my parents are from Wales, and so when I was in London, I was always Welsh, but so I was always like removed from that. And then when I went to uni in Cardiff, and then I was always English.
Yeah, cool.
So it's like-
I was just about to
so
say that.
I've been pushed out from both.
Oh, I had the same. I
We're
got
like-
Scottish, and then I always wore Scotland top.
Oh, you're Scottish from...
My parents were both Scottish, and then like when they were
interesting.
having at the school disco, they'd be playing the Vindaloo song, and we'd be shouting Scotland. And me, my other similar friend who had Scottish parents would
Gotcha.
have. So we're like uber nationalists, but
Yeah.
like in a nice that we're just supporting the football team.
Yeah, I got you, yeah.
But then when I would go to Scotland, I would just feel like such a southerner.
Yeah.
So I got,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I was just like, fuck,
yeah.
I feel like neither of these.
Is
And it's
it-
like maybe I don't have to be any of them.
Well, that's
It doesn't-
exactly how I.
it's
Yeah.
not- yeah, I don't
Is
need
it-
it, and I don't care that much about football.
It's a similar thing on my end,
Scotland is shit
and then we can,
football,
I
so
think we
it's
share
easy.
yours. But I don't think...
It's good to.
Oh, we'll start with yours,
Yeah.
mate, go on.
No, go.
Yorkshire, probably mine. So both my parents are from Yorkshire.
Oh, yeah.
But then I'm from Nottinghamshire. So
Wait,
I'm an
before we do
outsider
that-
in Yorkshire.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Which is annoying, it's just up the road. And
Yeah.
yet, I'm like, and they think
You're
I'm
not
southern,
north,
and I'm
innit?
like, oh, fuck's sake, I'm just literally down the road from you. Like, well, you're not Yorkshire, are you? It's like, both my parents are, I guess. I'm not Yorkshire.
You tried hard, yeah.
Yeah, I
just wanna belong.
It's a
Yeah,
bit-
exactly.
yeah, that's what
How
I'm
about you,
bored.
Craig?
No, but I was just saying it's quite interesting how like the further away you get from the epicenter, it's like, oh, you're from London, and then you're like, oh, you're South African, so you're just from South Africa.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
what part of
true.
South Africa? No,
True,
you're just from,
true.
you're South African guy, right? You just
Yeah,
categorized as
it's
a-
very
It
good
can be
point.
even worse. Though. It can be you're from Africa, which is a whole continent.
yeah, some
Like,
people
how
do
many
that.
people do when you say
Quite a lot
oh,
of people-
somewhere in Africa? It's
Oh,
like,
yeah, have
that's
you
a
met
lot
my
of
friend?
people.
She lives in
Lots of
Morocco.
people do that, though.
Yeah, well, I do it because I'm not as familiar. I'm way more familiar with Europe. So if I was talking to someone and they came from Germany, I wouldn't say, "Oh, I met someone that came from Europe." I'd say they come from Germany.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I've got a friend that I worked with someone that was from Nigeria. So actually, in this case, I'm actually a perfect example. I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But I still do it. A lot of times I'll be like, some study in, there was a country in Africa or something like that, and I just feel like a piece of shit every time I do that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But it's also really surprising the amount of times I'll be like, oh, I'm from South Africa, and they're like, oh, which country? Southern Africa.
Yeah, okay.
That's just about poor geography, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that is
it's weird how often that happens.
Really?
Well,
I do not know.
From Namibia, mate.
I've got to put my hands up. I don't know a lot about South Africa.
But I mean,
I guess that's the point why we categorise. Just like.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
Rule 1, Kerry.
So you got Africa.
Country.
Yeah.
It's quite a big country. Right at the south. It's really.
Okay.
It's not the cleverest name, really. Just
Europeans did
Africa.
it just to like point
South,
there.
yeah,
So-
this
Mate,
is
in
the south.
Brazil, they've got like Serra Grande, which sounds nice. It means big hill.
Yeah.
Gines Morais, General Mines, because it's a mine there. A lot of these names
Yeah,
are
that
really
sounds cool.
boring.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
but it sounds cool in a different language.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, we're talking about houseboats.
Sorry.
So you got a houseboat.
Yeah.
Talk us through it. What's it look like? How big is it?
It's 60,
where is it?
It's 60 foot. It's
How do we get inside?
fire at a door.
Please tell everyone on the podcast.
Where it
What
is.
is the code to the game?
What the
The combination lock is 2235. And
Great ad libbing, man. You got 4 digits so fast.
Yeah.
Genius there.
Sorry, we'll edit that bit out as well.
no, keep it in. I'm all for it.
You're a very trustworthy
Got
guy.
that.
Yeah.
So 2235.
Good memory. Yeah.
No one's going to listen to it, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
I hope someone's writing this down.
Yeah, I will have to. Yeah.
Do you want my phone number?
Right, tell us about barge life.
Yeah, Barge life.
It's pretty good. Whenever it rains, I get lots of leaks.
Really?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I've got a hull that's made out of steel and a wooden roof, which is not the best way to do it. Well, it depends. Like, so you can get ones with a steel hull and a steel roof, and then they're much more leak proof, I suppose.
It's heavy as hell.
Yeah, that doesn't really factor though.
Okay.
Or it does factor if you're building a boat, but if you're living on it, you don't really notice or really care. Well, I don't care.
Yeah, that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with
it's
it,
cool.
so we've got a fiberglass roof. But the problem with that is that you've got to because it will degrade. So you've got to keep
Is
it
it
on
affected by sun quite a lot?
Hmm?
Is it affected by sun quite a lot, or is it water that wears it down, or what?
It's everything. It's just basically everything really. Like, so with a steel roof, it will get really fucking hot, really hot, and so you've got to be aware of that. And like, so if you've got anything inside,
It'll radiate
the
it.
swell. Yeah. So what's happening? We've got some neighbours, and they've just had they've locked. So they went on holiday for like 4 days, locked the whole boat up, and they've only just moved onto the boat when it's got a steel roof and hull. So heat just penetrated in, stayed there, and so what's happened is like all their tiles have like popped off and stuff.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, and their water pipes have burst. But I'm not.
Whoa!
Well, I'm not
it
sure.
really
if that's,
did it then. It really screwed them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's. I think the water pipes have burst because of the heat. Because Well, yeah, I can't imagine why.
Yeah. What else would have done it?
Yeah, like our water pipes, you've got to be really careful about them freezing. So if they freeze in the winter, like and also like a lot of them are screw they're pipes and they're connected with like screws. So you screw in the pipe at the other end as well. And then if it freezes, it kind of unscrews itself. So if it freezes and then it melts, and then all of a sudden you're just like have water gushing out.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah, you just got to be aware of it, and you got to lean into it. I think what a lot of people with boats do, like they get like really excited by it. It's really romantic, and then they move into it, and then there's loads of stuff that they have to do, which you don't have to do in a house.
Yeah.
And so they're like,
But I mean, there's lots of stuff that you have to do in a house that we don't do in a house. But the difference is
exactly.
you don't drown if your house sinks.
well, you're not going to do that with a
cover.
boat. You're not going to do that unless you've got like a rusty hull. Which actually, yeah, saying that there are a lot of people.
Flooding, do something? Or storm? Perfect storm?
The perfect storm could happen. Yeah. I mean, it's rare.
Yeah.
Say about your. Tell them about your hull. So that when you inherited the boat.
Right, yeah. So basically, we actually got a faulty survey. So we bought the boat because there's such a seller's market. Like, there's a lot of people who want.
Yeah, you said it's like a 3-day turnaround now.
Yeah, in some boats, if you've got the right location and stuff.
Jesus. You put it up on the market and 3 days later it's gone.
Yeah, there's been a few boats that I've seen like that. Yeah, not all boats, obviously.
Cool. Yeah, of course. It depends on
but also what happened. So we were looking for like 8 months, which isn't like compared to a house, it's not that long.
Okay.
But there's also a lot less boats to houses. So when you're looking for 8 months, you're literally waiting for a boat to pop up. You go see it, and then there's a lot of other people who also go see it, and then, so you're checking it every day basically. And
Sounds intense.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, the housing market in Bristol was like that. It's really brutal.
But there's a lot more houses than boats.
Agreed.
So it's the same kind of concept, but you have more choice.
When I say housing, I meant more renting actually. Like the rental market is extremely competitive. Like you need to snap up a rent.
I went to view a room actually in a house, and it was like a group interview, and there was like 30 people. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Being interviewed for one room.
That's ridiculous.
And it was. Well, basically, so there was this like this 6-year-old woman who had a room. She was fucking loving it. She was like, so tell me, like,
do a dance for me.
Yeah, no, it really was.
There was take off your clothes, what? And take off your clothes. You had me, boy.
There was an element of that. There was an element of like, so who considers themselves the party animals? Not in a bad way. Just who's gonna be living life to the fullest. Yeah, exactly.
No, trying to catch you out.
No, I don't think it was catching out. I think it was. There was this.
He's the most liberal guy. He's the most like.
Well, there were quite a few guys who were like, yeah, no.
You start getting the jogging balls.
Really,
out.
is that how it went? It was just like
it was really like.
Raise your hands.
Well, it was just no, it totally was. It was just like everyone was like kind of fun, and like everyone's morals went out of the window. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'm better.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm more attractive.
Terrible.
I walk around the house all day without my top on.
Is she in the house?
Yeah, she was at the top floor.
Wow.
Proper.
Old school.
I mean, I don't know why. Like, I didn't have to interview for mine now.
Weird that.
Straight in, yeah. As well, like,
Shit.
Were you the interviewer?
Yeah.
You didn't interview Craig.
I actually interviewed him. It's weird. We just
No, you
changed
didn't.
it. Yeah, I did kind of.
He didn't. He's out of sympathy.
That's what I wanted you to think.
Yeah, well done.
That's the classic scrounger.
Yeah, well, he describes that room good, right? Nicely done. Cool. We were talking about Hull, weren't we?
So you get this. The survey's 40.
So basically
Well done, pod.
yeah,
You got to
Bring
keep
it
track
back.
of stuff.
pod skills. So we looked at this boat. It looked really good. We looked at the survey, and it looked fine. It was done within 3 years, which isn't, it's fine. And so we looked at the hull density, and it was 6.6 mil, which is fine.
Okay.
And so within 3 years, like if it's been blacked, which is like basically put tar on the hull, 3 years is nothing, and it'll be fine. Anyway, so we bought the boat and we took it out of the water because we got our own survey down anyway. And it turns out that the survey that we bought it with was completely botched, and it was like basically 1 mil in places. There was a few points.
1 mil
between
the
steel,
water and the inside.
Yeah, and you could put a hammer through it.
You could put less than a hammer through it. 1 mil.
A hammer's enough, Craig.
Like a little needle. I could push a needle. I could put a
the
nail.
bottom of the boat
Yeah.
was 1
The
mil
hull of the
thick.
boat was
Basically
1
on
millimetre.
where
That's the hull,
where
right?
the
I don't know
bottom
about
and the sides
be
connected.
honest.
So it was on where the two plates were welded together. There was rust, and it was you could literally
Eating its way through. It's got
it
to a
was
mill.
harrowing.
That
And so the
sounds
surveyor,
awful. You could have drowned.
he
in that thing.
loved it as well.
Yeah.
He loved like it was proper like
That's like bread.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
like bread and butter, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
You're pretty
like,
close. Good job you got
Like
me in.
gather round.
Oh,
Look at this hammer. Crack.
Did he?
Yeah, he totally did that, and it just went straight through it. And me and Hannah, like basically, we didn't really know. Hannah's my girlfriend, who I bought, who's living with me on the boat.
Sweet.
Basically,
Nice.
we're land lovers. We don't know anything about this.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so he
yeah.
was loving it.
Of course.
He was
Fucking
absolutely-
Landy's
Like-
coming in here. Here's how
Did
the
he just
boats
milk
work.
it then? Like, you need to get all this done.
He went to town on. Well, he did it. He did his job.
I
Basically.
mean, there was
How do you
at that
rectify
point there
that?
was presumably there was a hole in the fucking hole, so you had to do something about it.
Basically.
Yeah.
we can go back in the water after that.
Of course. But you wouldn't want to
Yeah, but
anyway,
like,
knowing
yeah,
there's
so-
a mill anyway, so it's like
What
fair
do you
play.
do? Do you have to create a layer? Or what?
Yeah, you have to replate it. So you put new steel on,
Gotcha.
and then weld it on.
How long does
How
that
big
last
is that?
for? 3 years.
Well, so we put 6 mil on. So, bearing in mind it was only 1 mil in places.
6 mil is quite small as well. Still.
No, for steel though. It's
I know, but I
fucking-
mean, it's thinner than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
No, but 6. Have you lifted a 6 mil? Like,
It is very, very heavy.
It's pretty heavy, man.
And we're talking.
It's surprising.
Yeah, I used to do like designs with 4mm, and I thought that was
Pretty chunky. Yeah. There's a
Weird
lot of safety
how heavy
tolerance
it is.
in that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like,
All right.
It was-
Story done.
it was, yeah. End of
Thanks for
podcast.
tuning into the podcast.
All right, everyone needs.
Kevin didn't die yet.
Yeah,
Have a
exactly.
boat.
Oh.
Check how thick the hole is.
That's
Can we,
really
can we
good.
start again
It's really
and maybe say that the boat did go down with your girlfriend in?
That'd be better.
Yeah, we
That'd
can
be
make a
better.
proper serial.
Yeah.
thing.
We'll rehash it. I think
edit that
we've
in.
got enough content
Sound
there to
effects.
actually just edit
Edit
it
it, yeah.
and just cut the story around.
Kerry, can you do
So
some
start
crying
with-
sobs for us?
Wait,
I miss
actually,
her
that's
so
an
much.
interesting point. What do you
Yeah,
guys,
so like some samples, and we can like
Yeah,
put them on
just
top.
sample them now and again. Yeah.
what do you guys
We'll
think
come
of
back
that? Like new, like I forgot what it's called, but the voice mimicking thing.
The
What's it
deep
called?
fake stuff.
Deep
What?
fake.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
that's-
how
I don't know.
Crazy.
I don't
they
know.
so
I mean, think
they
about
did
what
it
they
with
could do.
Joe
in the
Rogan's
future.
voice. Really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They mimicked his
Perfect.
voice.
But they do-
Oh,
they
that's
just
scary
take
as hell, man.
samples.
Yeah.
that's
Machine
scary.
learning it, I think. I don't
Yeah,
really know.
no,
But
yeah,
then-
yeah.
I don't
But they
like
do.
that.
They
and you
do
can make anything. So you can just do. You could just do a podcast eventually.
Wait, so
Have you seen the
what's
3D
this?
modelling as well? So basically,
AI
if
is
we,
faking
if we
our
yeah,
voices.
if I record
Uh,
George's
voice
voice,
now,
Yeah,
enough
I have heard of
information
this.
on-
yeah, and it's accurate enough now, and
Give
it's
it
in
enough
the
days.
early year, like, it will get better, and it can do it with face. Like,
that's great.
and people are doing it, so they'll get it. I saw one
yeah,
clip
like
where it
that.
was Jack Nicholson
That was
from
it, yeah.
Shining, and they put
I don't mind it, honestly.
someone else's face.
It's going to make news obsolete. Obsolete though.
Yeah,
isn't it?
well, it's just good. It means we've got to go back to just having conversations face to face.
No, but it's
And I'm fine with
really
that.
interesting because it means
I
that
don't
we're
mind
going to be stuck in. So at the moment, I think if you look at like celebrity culture, like we've been living like our celebrities. We've stuck with the same people for a long time, which I don't
Yeah.
think we ever did before. Like so Marilyn Monroe, they had like that kind of celebrity culture was like it was a window, and then the new age celebrities like took over. Whereas now we've had the same celebrities for such a prolonged period of time, and so with this new technology,
You think that's gonna?
Yeah, they got
that's
way
gonna
more
go
data.
on?
Oh, and the internet.
well, so like you could have Arnold Schwarzenegger for the next 100 years,
Easy.
and so that's the
Immortal.
new celebrity, and
But
that's
don't
going
you
to
think
stop any development happening. We're just going to come. Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. No, I was interrupting you.
Well, like that, we're going to be reliving that. We're going to be stuck in that. Like,
There's a potential for that to happen.
yeah, and then
Agreed.
they're put on. No longer they're just put on the pedestal of like they're in this kind of. They're up there. It's like they're literally unattainable.
Yes.
Because you cannot penetrate that.
Rightly so, and in a lot of ways, it's like because they're completely unique people. Like they're never going to be recreated. It's like that's the nice thing about.
Well, you say
being
that,
a
and I'm not
separate
sure. I'm
individual.
not sure.
Do you not agree? Then?
I'd argue that like I think. Have you heard of the?
You're right.
You're
Can
right,
I-
Craig.
I'm thinking.
Good.
I'm listening.
Intensely.
Right,
Yeah,
just for
yeah.
everyone at home.
Just to give Craig is
Craig-
seriously thinking.
Had his head on the table there just for a second.
Yeah.
We
I was
should get some
enjoying the
video
sun
here.
rays. I was enjoying the sun
No
rays
one-
and then just listening to what
Sun's
you're saying
not
because
out,
I was contemplating whether
Everyone
I
knows the classic
exactly
way to
agree with how I think it's
How does it
extended,
being
but then it's
structured?
the intensity because like no one. Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't have the celebrity presence that he did before.
Oh, he
But
does.
no, he's definitely not the same as he was when he was in Terminator, and he was like the big.
But that's
dude.
what I'm talking about. They could recreate that.
But
Yeah,
I'm
they
just
can.
thinking that. I'm just thinking that's
I
why I
got
was
you,
keeping
I
my
got
head on
you.
the table,
Yeah,
going
I
like,
got
oh,
you.
what do I think?
So
about
that's
the
his
character?
thing,
cool.
and so that's.
Terminator was a great movie though.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, man, fucking
But
classic.
also, this is what we're talking about. It's the fact that, like, as Arnold Schwarzenegger gets older, and he loses that kind of like massive, like masculine kind of.
Yeah,
Like-
Mr. Universe feel.
He's
Yeah.
never going to lose that.
So
but
you're
continue.
you're kind of brought into awareness that that cannot be sustained forever.
Correct.
Everyone gets older.
So do you think it's
everyone
gonna be a good thing? Like, it's not the
phase, I
anti-Instagram
think.
thing because like
It's a
people are
phase.
posting like, oh look at my life, it's amazing. I'm eating this, I'm doing this. So you see this really refined view, but actually we're gonna see old like these people that were pristine get old.
Yeah,
and
but that's
interesting.
healthy.
It's like
That's
I know
healthy.
that, but I'm saying it's an interesting counter with what we have on a day-to-day basis. basis.
Not,
And I think
yeah,
it's
healthy is the
interesting.
wrong word, but
But yeah, no, I think it might be healthy, like to see, like, oh, we all grow old and become decrepit, blah blah blah. But it's just it's interesting, but it's not healthy
Because
to
we-
obsess over them.
But that's it. But yeah, that's it. Like we're given the opportunity to obsess until. So we're going into an age where we have the potential to obsess over someone or something like an ideal
Yes.
that will never like enter
Yeah.
proper reality.
Correct.
So like with
That's
Arnold
already
Schwar-
gone. That's already extinct.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, yeah.
for example, like hypothetically,
Do it
or
all
for
the
sake of
time.
argument,
Do it
let's
all the
talk.
time.
Well, yeah. Like if you've got a young guy who looks at Arnold Schwarzenegger in Conan, and you think like, oh, that is the epitome of being a man. And then all of a sudden, there's new Conans like in like 70 years' time, where he's still exactly the same. Like, you're building up this weird ideology that is like
Immortality.
yeah, and so it's
Maybe that's
unattainable.
digital-
It's unattainable. Like the recognition.
Maybe that's digital survival.
Yeah,
Like we're oh my, that's kind of fucking crazy. When you think, if you think of everything as information, and that we are information, and that you could potentially, let's just say it's possible to download or upload yourself. I mean, I would argue it would be you. It would be just a copy of a clone of you, like just in the same that your twin is not you. If you're
Well, the problem with that is that all the answers, you know all the answers. So if you try to replicate that in that kind of like Matrix kind of, you're talking about the Matrix kind of thing, right?
Pretty much.
No, I mean essentially, it'd be if we're made out of information and the things that we're processing is made out of information, and that information is organised in a way that it is self-aware. I'm getting a bit far ahead.
No, I agree. You're running, and then you kind of But for me, the key thing is, as soon as you clone something, then they've got separate paths.
Yeah.
So like, you can never. That's the thing about
It's
being
not
an
you, which
individual.
is why it's
So
not
like,
really-
well, that's why
But
I'm
maybe
not
that's
worried
what
about
moments
AI or uploading my consciousness.
difference
to
between-
a
maybe that's
different
what
thing,
consciousness
because
is.
Like,
Every
it's
second.
just, it's different. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
Every second
you're
probably
is
you
it your
create
new
a different universe, and that universe might have that version that made that.
Or you're just a
decision.
new you. You're passing the baton. That's kind of a Vipassana thing, where like each moment is, and I think that someone because we were talking about reincarnation, because they talk about that a bit with Vipassana, and one of the guys, I really liked his idea. And it's in the sense that you are constantly reborn. Every second is like a new synaptic, like
Yeah, release.
shock, and it's like and it's rearranged, and you're not the person you were before.
Yeah.
Okay, there's some consistency there, but it's the idea that you're passed on the baton, so you are rewarded or punished for your past actions because you inherit what you just did. I like that.
Some of your past. It's really interesting. Oh, God, if I can remember this now, it'd be heroic. And I think it's like the past is everything rolled up. I've lost it. That I'm going to edit that for now. But whoa, when I get that, when I find that book and I find that quote,
What everything like basically
Basically
brought
like
the
that-
past into the
correct.
current
So
now.
the present is the past rolled up for action, basically.
Yeah.
And the past is the present. It is everything unfurled to study. You see what I mean? So it's like the past is everything you've ever done that you can look back on and go, I messed up here, messed up here, messed up here. And the present is all of that you roll up and you just fucking hit the current state.
Yeah, because I mean, it's,
You know what I mean? It's like
it
you
has its effect,
are an
yeah.
accumulation of your past.
Everything isn't random. It is all based on things that have happened before.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as knowing that, you can kind of just go, okay, well, if I make a good decision now, or a morally good decision, then I know that that's just an extra point for me when I'm rolling up for the present again, to be like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'll make a good swipe at this.
It's a good analogy, and sometimes I think we need to
I
make
like
these
it.
simple. I mean, that's, Jordan Peterson is just trying to. When he says, when you get up, make your bed, fucking put your clothes away. I mean, he knows that's simple. But simple things
easy
are
stuff.
powerful, yeah. It's
For
like,
sure.
and that is that can be extended to everything you do. Like, take that responsibility in every moment. So I was I have got better at that as well. It's just a shame it took me until I was fucking in my 30s.
Yeah, man, but it takes
That's why you
people
have
until
failed relationships as
they're
well,
in
'cause I was just
the
a-
50s, 60s, 70s.
No, so
part of
you
it.
know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know.
I don't believe
Exactly,
that.
man. You shouldn't.
What do you?
Oh, right. Okay, well, this is a completely different one. Yeah. Well,
Look
that's
at
a
that.
big one.
If you could look at his, stop doing crunches.
Stop doing crunches in the middle of a
stretching,
fucking
okay?
pub
I've
garden,
been sitting
mate.
down for too long. I'm a fidgety person. I need to be.
Yeah, all right. You go and do some fucking ab workout over there, my friend.
Actually,
That's right. We're going to try and shame you out of
Go do some
exercise,
push-ups.
All right.
you quite liked trying to copy my little extended planker.
Yeah, I've got a good core, mate.
You do actually.
Got a good core. Always been proud of that. I was going to say, so we'll move on. So, what do you do?
Rain it in.
Yeah. What do you do for work? Normally, Kerry. This is a good segue now.
I have 3 jobs essentially.
Hit me. Job 1.
So my brother's got profound autism, which is, in a nutshell, it's. Oh, I can't describe it in a nutshell. Basically,
Okay.
he's
It's difficult.
He's very, very autistic. He can't speak, and he has challenging behaviour. So that is, he doesn't have a physical disability, but he can. So he doesn't have a physical disability, but he can be very aggressive if not listened to. So, for example, I talked to you guys about this earlier, but so if you imagine yourself, but you remove language, and you can't communicate to the people around you, but then you're in an environment where the person who's supporting you has control over you, so they have access to the toilet, they control whether or not you can go to the toilet, you can eat what you want, you can drink what you want, and you can do what you want. So if my brother wakes up and thinks, I quite like to go swimming today, he doesn't, if the person supporting him hasn't set up a environment where he can communicate that, he has no way to communicate that.
Sure.
So where the challenging behaviour occurs is like you go to a restaurant and the person supporting him orders him fish and chips and he wants a pizza. If you see someone else with a pizza, his options are either I have fish and chips, which I don't want, or I can just go get that pizza. So he's going to go get that pizza.
Gotcha.
I was going to say, it's interesting because earlier we were talking about you have a conversation and you're both talking about two different things. George said to you, what do you do for a living? You said your brother has autism, and now you're talking about autism.
Well, yeah, I need to set it up.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, I know, but now you're defining autism, which is a very different thing, and it will take you a long time.
I know, but I'm just saying. It's all right. I've listened to enough podcasts to know that I need to wrap it up.
We need an arc here. I know it's coming.
No, but it was just
we're at the depth of the arc.
You're having accused of talking about autism a lot, because we do it a lot.
We do.
And it was just interesting that segment.
I've only done it for like a minute.
No, that was going quite deep.
Yeah,
But it was a very. You decide. I'm just
shaming me.
No,
to the world.
No, we're just being playful here.
hilarious.
But it was, what are you doing? And then you very quickly went into describing everything about autism.
Yeah, because
If my girlfriend was listening to
maybe
this,
it does, but a lot of people know what autism are.
A lot of
But I
people
mean,
don't.
we could have that
not
as a side.
necessarily profound autism. Like profound autism is more of people understand autism and Asperger's. Well, it's more in the main. It's more commonly understood now. But profound autism is like essentially it's like hardcore autism. It's it's where a lot of people, like in the past, a lot of people have been locked away for it. Well, people were locked away for it. So it's only in our generation really that we're starting to see people like going to coffee shops, going to.
Gotcha.
It's not.
Try and introduce it as like we can deal with this.
Totally.
Or they became
we can find a
CEOs for
space for
massive
this.
companies.
Okay, it's all right. I'm not going to do what you accused me of doing. I'm going to wrap it up now.
I was actually
I'm going to bring it back.
I was actually criticising you.
You're
saying
in a
Come in
neat
here,
little
get
bow.
people.
You guys are very limited in how much you're prepared to actually open up about, aren't you?
Fucking around, man.
No, you're not.
Go do some crunches.
I'm trying to fuck around.
Do your crunches.
Yeah, and I was quite light about that. But you got very touchy when I said that, and it's because you're told to not talk about autism all the time, so it really struck a nerve.
Do you see what he did there?
Yeah, he's coming around.
I reversed what you did to me. It's okay.
Yeah, nice.
It's
Psychology
like tennis.
102.
It's like the new form of tennis.
I just thought it was interesting
It
because
is.
of what you said.
Generally
You were saying before about having two different conversations, and you were interested enough to go with that. But then I was
did for a
here
bit.
being like, I think it's fine. But it was just interesting how you went straight into like describing all.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I know you, and you have a mission, which is to inform people and really to explain
Agreed.
to people what autism is. Because you are.
And to do it properly, not to be like he's like not autism. He's not Rain Man, but he kind of is Rain Man. Blah, blah, blah. It's like it's not being genuine.
If you don't have to say it, you have to say it. It's the key. That's what I'm saying. Coming in, like, you're talking about autism. I don't really have a lot to say. I'll try and chip in with something.
I have a lot to say.
Oh, you do?
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said I don't really have
right.
Go.
I think
Hit me.
so with autism, right? So you know better than me, probably. But do you not
He
think
definitely does,
we
yeah.
just like decide? A lot of people have just been like, all right, we're going to make this thing autism, but actually, this person has a very specific thing.
Yeah, there is an element
About
of
the
that.
range,
Basically, right.
yeah.
So hang on. I've got to
going,
bring
going.
it back to what my job is at some point.
He's got the lead. You're talking to him now.
Okay.
All right, yeah. Sorry.
So this is obviously my opinion, but
I think it's very person specific, and we just like that person's autistic. It's no, like
it's
if
very-
you actually dealt with the areas of the brain that is affected.
it's very new. I think that's the point. It's like within a lot of research at the moment, we don't know what areas of the brain are affected, Like
Yeah.
so, it's
Well,
not. It's
And it
not
will
a
be
sim-
different between each.
So, yeah,
And what in the
I guess-
in the research of that, it's like there are massive disagreements. Around,
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot more conditions that we've just decided to put into autism rather than being like.
well, that's the problem with
actually, this
psychology.
is-
That's the problem with
Yeah,
psychology.
yeah, that's
like,
what I mean.
We do it with cancer
Like
as well.
even
Cancer's 100.
psychopathy, people like this guy's psychopathic. No, actually, because we've made this.
But okay, so
Rating
that's
system.
because you don't you are guilty of the same thing as them, as which they don't know how to divide it differently. So you can only divide things into specific applications when you know them. So what you have to do is like these
Yeah,
are
exactly.
a
But
loose bunch
that's
of
how you're
conditions.
supposed to treat a person. You treat a
I
person.
know, but we don't
not
have
a
the
condition.
science yet.
But as a psychiatrist,
Well,
like
yeah, that's what I mean, a
you've
good-
got to know such a broad range of different.
But a good psychiatrist would get to know their patient. They wouldn't be like, you have this condition.
Oh yeah, but they're
treating
still
this condition."
coming from the
Research base is what they have, the knowledge they have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
They only know what they know, and they can only make diagnosis to a certain degree. So some people will know autism and Asperger's much better than other people, and then other people will know.
Yeah. But what
It's-
I mean is the research should also not just be like, this person's autistic. It should be,
But
let's be more focused on certain
But
areas.
they
it's
just
really-
need
it's-
to keep doing it. They don't.
That's
have
what I
the
mean, yeah.
research. Yeah.
Yeah,
really- it's really
all I'm
new
saying.
though.
Yeah,
they
there's
want to
loads
stop.
of
We
work.
just don't have it. It's just like
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like
Yeah,
saying
but-
like
yeah.
200 years ago they should have been talking about like 400 years they should have been talking about germs, but they just didn't know what germs were,
Yeah,
and we
exactly.
barely know what autism is.
Yeah. No, my only fear is that
They simplify
people
it.
have just been like, they're autistic. We're not going to bother.
There's always going to be a danger of that anyway. But
Yeah.
mainly because with the psychologies, it's so fucking broad. It's so and if you think of it like if you think of it in research terms, like to work out exactly what's causing these things, it's really
George is
difficult.
I've got a question after you finish this.
Okay.
Raise your hand, George.
I did.
Dog. Oh yeah.
So my job is to go back to your
George
question.
raised his hand.
No, yeah, no. That point was good. Sorry, interrupting.
No, it's
I
after
really
your
wanna
comment. After your comment, Craig, I want to go back to my job.
But that was good.
Take a full circle. Full circle.
People
People
Yeah,
at home want to
yeah,
know. They might.
yeah.
I think my
They
intention
probably-
was
they
misread.
probably-
Like I was trying to develop conversation.
I'll take
Yeah.
it, I'll take
No,
it.
but you keep playing it, so I assume.
Because I know the format of a
this
good
is good
podcast.
podcasting.
Good
Argue.
All right, let me just
How about
So
host? Go on,
so part time. I manage my brother. So my brother's got a supported living
Allowance or...
Well, no, basically he's given a council house and he lives in that council house. It's a very new, well not new. It's a very unique kind of living arrangement where so the provider who give him support go to a house. It's not his house. He pays for the house. It's like a council flat, council house kind of scheme.
Yeah.
And I currently manage that. Only for the last year.
So
It's very new, and it was
do you manage carers that support him?
yes,
Support workers?
yeah, and it's gone really well actually, and it's really incredible, and there's a lot in that in itself.
Do you
Yeah, okay.
find there's been quite a big difference since you? in
Oh,
terms-
massive
Since
difference.
you've taken over? That's awesome.
This sounds a bit.
Well, how much
No,
of it do you
it's fine,
think?
it's
Yeah,
your brother.
I think, and I also think you are very, and just because you want to be humble, I do think you have a very interesting insight, especially because
You just-
whatever the traits are of autism, you do not have them. You actually seem to have somewhat the opposite, without going into what you think on that maybe now, because there's probably a whole other podcast. So I think your insights are particularly interesting because I think I personally fit more on the spectrum than you do. So I feel like I
100%.
understand it from a more.
Yeah.
I understand it.
You
from,
inherently understand it,
Yeah, so
whereas
it's like peanuts.
I know of it. Not know of it, but I.
You've become aware of it, whereas I feel it. It's
Yes.
just
Yeah,
it's
exactly
just
that,
aware of me,
exactly
It's
that.
like, yeah. So
Which
it's
made
like-
for an interesting childhood.
Yeah,
when you
which
were-
is why
I
in some
can
ways you
imagine,
probably understand it in a greater depth, or at least
Sure.
than
Greater
I do. Yeah.
experience than anyone else.
I think I could describe to you how they're feeling, maybe more, or I could feel that, but I think you understand it better.
It's the same. It's the same as like I think.
Do you work with a lot of kids? With
Yeah, but the difference is I work well with them because I can tell in any given. I'm exaggerating here, but I can get a very good sense of how they feel at any given moment. But I'm
Yes.
removed enough that I can go and predict ahead of it and know how to adapt. Whereas that doesn't necessarily mean I do understand it. I think I'm far enough removed, but but it doesn't necessarily mean I understand it. It could be just like a stimulus, like a conditional response thing that I've learned. But I think you've got a greater understanding of it, especially growing up.
Of course,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I think it's I don't necessarily. I've never. So to describe all these kind of things, I think it's like. It's such a massive subject.
Yeah,
so basically, going back to what you said, Craig. I have.
Hours.
Have you ever read the book The Autistic Brain?
No. Who wrote it?
There's a girl who's autistic. It's very good. It would have been a good conversation if you've read it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, agreed.
But she was basically, I mean, like I'm saying, it's different levels, but she just describes so well. Like, all I'm saying is it's similar to, you grew up with it. She had autism, but she, like, was able to write about it
enough to be able to actually
her
get it
mum
down in logical.
Didn't ever, like, categorize her as autistic. Do you know what I mean? Like, so.
Well,
it's the same thing with the thing we were talking about earlier with the blind guy who could echolocate. Like, they didn't give her that frame of reference.
I think it's really important. I think we're dealing with a new thing.
Deal with it.
It's our generation. Like, well, we're 30 now. Well, in our 30s now.
28.
20. Oh yeah.
I should give you this book though as well. I got a lot of books to give you.
Yeah, no, I'd be well up for that. But basically, we're dealing with a new issue of it, which issue of that diagnosis, which is the fact that when our parents were in their generation, they didn't get the diagnosis. And so now that we're getting, like, there's like what were you going? Craig was going on about a second ago about, like, it's overly diagnosed, well, not potentially overly diagnosed.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Now.
Yeah, agreed.
And also, when you get the diagnosis, there's this kind of like a lot. There's
the fear of the diagnosis,
the fear of it, and also they're playing into it. Like, there's
Oh man, this is beautiful now. Just to
sun's just come out, guys.
Beautiful weather.
It is sunny.
The conversation is also flowing.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
Oh, my fault. I bet
We interrupt the news for this weather update. Yeah, go, Craig.
I bet the conversation was way better when I was over there.
It flowed a little more.
Craig's back.
That's why 4 people is tough, man.
I'm really bad. I'm real bad at, like, when I have a thought, I just say it. It's really stupid.
No, it's not stupid. It's just really good thought, but it's rude. It's it is a little bit rude at times.
Sorry, Kerry. Yeah, no, it is.
I'm the same. I say it.
I mean, that kind of conversations are awkward because it's like, if someone's going to keep speaking, eventually, it's when do you know when to jump
Correct.
in? I mean,
that's a whole nuance of conversation.
It's a really good skill, actually, to know when to speak.
That's how you get good at conversation.
Anyway, sorry, Kerry. You were making a good point.
How to explain that to, like, me and you, Craig, have had the thing about trying to explain it to kids, like, when you're dealing with people with Asperger's, so Asperger's rather than autism. Okay. So there's no.
What's the key difference between those two?
There's a lot.
Well, technically,
so I can give you my opinion, and the easiest way that I
high functioning autism, isn't it?
There's it breaks down into so many different levels, and I think, like, with Asperger's and autism, that's one of the key areas that a lot of people argue about. But from my
defined in the first place,
Dr.
Asperger's came up with basically the condition of autism predates and when autism was coined by that American guy. He actually worked under Dr. Asperger. Yeah. He said it's called autism. Then people started paying attention to Dr. Asperger and said, "Oh, this is actually this." They had different.
You're kidding me?
Yeah. So the
Dr. Asperger's.
Hans Asperger's.
Then his term, even though he was talking about.
I mean, think about where names come from. They always come from.
Yeah. Well, not with autism. It's different. With autism, it's I can't remember now. I did know it.
It's the American guy. He came up with, but he was.
It's a term for, like, almost like stoicness, I think.
Yeah. Well, he actually thought that was a parental problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty fucked up dude.
Refrigerator mother.
That
was horrific.
Yeah.
So basically, back in the 60s, the refrigerator mother kind of theory went as the parents hadn't given, well, the mother hadn't given the child enough attention, and so the way to rectify that was to, like, get them to hug them. I've reduced it, but
I got you. Yeah, I'm with you.
But
Just show more.
Hug the arse off of them. Like, so all the attention that you didn't give them, give it to them in 3-hour sessions.
With you.
Wait. After, but the damage is done already.
Yeah. Well, but no. It's not. So that wasn't the case, and so you're doing by having like so it wasn't.
You're taking one extreme and then applying another extreme.
Well, so no, but nowadays now we understand that autism is a neurological condition, and it's not. You don't develop it. It's something. It's more natural than that. So you don't by having no attachment, having no parental affection. That's not causing Asperger's or autism, and so by giving more of it, that's not going to rectify it.
Yeah, but I do think it is a slight influencer.
No, it's
I know that, like.
Well, you're going against the well.
Yeah.
So, go on.
I just mean I think I'm 100% on the research side. I think on a very small scale, and like only because I've kind of experienced it working with someone who's autistic, that it gives them an identity. Like a lot of people, and I don't think it's really the autistic traits. It's
so they're identifying as being autistic.
Yeah, and
so this goes back to what we were talking about a second ago, around like feeding into the label and being like, oh, I'm autistic, therefore I do this.
Self-diagnosing.
No, but the amazing thing is, I think I mentioned when we picked you up, where there was a guy who was just an insanely good carer.
Yes.
Yeah. And because he was so good and confident and such a good like father figure almost to the guy, he didn't have any of the symptoms. Like he didn't.
It became normal around.
So he became more functional.
Well, normal is
the more research.
Function, whatever you want to say that is. But I mean, he spoke fluently.
That's
he was
fascinating.
It is, but it's like so.
So all I'm saying, just from that observation, I think it has a slight play on some.
I understand what you're saying. I think so. It depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about autism or Asperger's, so if you're talking about autism, so going back to what we talked about originally, like the difference. My opinion of the difference between autism and Asperger's is essentially whether or not you have a learning disability. So if you have Asperger's, you have a social condition, not an intellectual disability. If you have autism, you have a social condition and a learning disability.
It's a pathology.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's become it's when it becomes it prevents you from being able to interact in society in a way. Or
it's an intellectual thing. It's essentially.
I think it's almost a superpower though, like the way.
It's a really dangerous way of saying it.
Yeah, saying like
because it's really rare, and also it's.
No, I mean certain Asperger's individuals have like the way they
certain do, but then it's like the same as saying like certain people who don't have it have superpowers. Like there are intelligent people in all aspects. Sorry, it's more of a stereotype, and like I said.
No, I guess I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's just a very unique way that they think, and it's not all. I'm saying some people.
There's an interesting argument that it's been adaptively selected for.
Sorry, I'm not trying to discriminate or anything. I'm just saying.
No. I think there's no truth in what you're saying.
Amazing.
No, I know.
There are benefits to it, and there's good.
It's just a dangerous language, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And it's also you're treading in the footsteps of people who.
But I'm not
used
someone
it badly.
who stereotypes people. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that.
Like because just from this book, the way it described a lot of the way people think is from like ground up rather than top down.
Yes.
Yeah. So they will, because the way they've thought everything out, they will find the solution because they've thought about it from the end solution to the top.
But the reason why they'll never
are you talking about top down, bottom up processing?
Yeah. So they would from the bottom up, right? And we would think top down.
So this is kind of like a new thing.
Is it? Maybe the other way around.
Well, no, it's global local processing. It's basically so to describe that would be bottom. Oh, actually no. Hang on.
I can give an analogy because I came up with this the other day where I was very bottom up processor, and I used to think that was how I tripped over myself. I basically disagreed with myself. I was trying to think of an argument that I would use to someone that's like a social constructionist, and I was thinking, well, to build a house you have to start with a brick, so that a house therefore begins with a brick, so everything is bottom up. But then I realised I was like, shit, without the concept of a house there is no brick.
Exactly.
And that people don't realise. If you want to be a well-rounded person, you need to realise that the house is a brick and the brick requires a house, and the reason feels so uncomfortable for most people to appreciate that you need both of those things. It's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. It just makes our head explode a little bit.
Does,
and if you can see both those things in life, you will become a more well-rounded person.
Fascinating.
But I was very much on that spectrum of thinking like, oh no, you look at the small things and you build up from there.
Definity, define, and you build up.
Yeah,
You see,
it's just more things stacked.
So essentially, when we talk about that in reference to autism, like we all do that. Like you can't.
It's a thing.
Yeah, you can't not do that.
Yeah.
All I mean, I think I'm probably gonna. This is probably gonna offend some people actually.
Go on.
What I mean is like some people that have Asperger's syndrome, no other human being could think that the way that like that.
Yeah.
Like
Correct.
that guy who can be taken up in a helicopter and being shown a city and then.
So you're talking about autism savant, which is like a
Savant,
very small.
No. Yeah.
It's like
it's really small,
incredibly rare.
But what I'm saying is,
it's
just
disproportionately
interesting.
focused on. It's part of the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's idealised.
I'm not focusing on it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I would argue everyone's capable of that. Every single human being on this planet is capable of being a whether it's the most mundane thing. Like I am the best at understanding like
you're
1994
right.
fucking pogs. No, you're not. It's not offensive. It's just a useful point to like. It's like everyone's got their own like niche. Everyone has one.
But you've also got to recognise that is how autism and Asperger's is. Not necessarily in the majority anymore, but it was how it was introduced.
Fascinating.
Into autism and Asperger's into the main
extreme versions.
Yeah, well, Rainman's like I had an upbringing of like
awareness of it, I guess, right?
Well, so basically, it comes from from again, this is my opinion. I think it comes from where people are like we need to see the goodness in this. So let's identify like the superpower people.
Correct.
But then we're now in a position where it's like, yeah, okay, we understand Asperger's. We accept Asperger's to a certain extent and expect autism to a certain extent. But let's also remind each other, like you can be those things without having the kind of like.
I don't know if I'd say goodness. I think it's sensationalized. I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm using the wrong language.
If it was bad, then it would be that. It's just what sticks out. That's what we are pattern recognizers and things that stick out. We pay attention to. It breaks the novelty.
Point. A very good point. Until they come into conformity, and then we find the next thing.
I think doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not good to do.
And that's the whole. That's the beauty of being human, I think.
Do you ever think
it's the fact that you bring more and more into the mainstream, and then you keep spotting. I'll come to you, mate.
Yeah, I feel like I need to try to dig myself out of this hole.
Exactly.
Hold us together. You think there's a hole? There's not a hole.
Oh, right, okay.
There's not a hole. Not
There's
one
no
of us
hole
thinks
there,
anything bad about you. You brought up something, and we just mentioned that.
Good point.
Yeah. But I think you're not completely
chill, man.
Yeah, and you're not completely wrong either because
it's important to recognise.
Yeah, and there are certain things that people with Asperger's. It seems to, like if someone gets a nail through their head and then they start behaving differently, we go, oh, something happened with that part of the brain, and that means something. And then when you find someone that's got Asperger's and they can tell you, if you go 1984 June the 2nd and they tell you, oh, it was a Sunday and the weather was whatever.
That's
weather.
calendar anesthesia. Anyone can have that actually.
Okay,
but what I was trying to say is. That
anyone can have that. You don't think that's a condition. You think
calendar anesthesia.
But you don't think that's. I'm not saying that's an Asperger's thing. I'm saying that's a mental condition.
But do you think that it's maybe just a lot of these conditions are because of the way we've decided to structure society, so that we don't accommodate for these certain.
So,
if
you're talking about my opinion, I think that we're getting to an age where Asperger's. So all right. So to set some ground, kind of like foundations.
Yeah,
this is my opinion. This is my opinion. This isn't.
Of course, yeah.
But basically, so autism. So Asperger's. I think Asperger's is very right. So I've got a brother with Asperger's, a brother with autism, and both my parents are probably on the spectrum. And then I'm heavily dyslexic. But in relation to me and my parents, like I am very. I am like essentially the opposite of Asperger's. Like, so everything that my parents can do, I can't do, and everything my parents can do. No, everything my parents can't do, I can do. Everything I can't do, my parents can do. So we've.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So I think from my opinion, I think Asperger's is a natural developing condition. I don't think it's a disability. I think it's a condition. I think it's.
More environmental than it is genetic.
No. I think it's genetic.
Oh,
I think
okay.
so. Basically, if you talk about me and Craig, we're talking about the hidden brain episode. Two brains in one?
The master and the emissary.
Yeah,
I
the
really
master.
wanna listen.
But I need
Right-hand side, left-hand
we need
side.
podcast Santa. Do you know Adam Buxton's podcast Santa? When he like relays it over and he like tells you what the fact
Oh,
is.
that's cool.
You jump
Yeah,
in, yeah. If you can't remember the name of a book, you go, it's cool, and then you would just come in with a soundbite and say,
Yeah.
something by
really?
Podcast
That's so
Santa. Yeah.
More
It
editing.
requires-
I wouldn't
it
do
requires
that.
some professional-
It's too much effort, mate. I'm not gonna lie. I don't get paid for this shit.
Shit, that's
so
wrong.
I ain't doing that.
Yeah, just
That's good.
chip that in, George, right?
Yeah, no, I got
I'm gonna
time for
start
that shit.
putting a lot of references out now.
But he will cut this bit out.
Yeah.
I ain't got time for this shit.
All of
Adam
this,
Buxton
actually,
couldn't
all
find
of
his
this
own fans.
podcast
He's
is
not getting any
getting
more
cut.
out of my podcast.
On reflection, this is a very good idea. There's a reason why the big dogs use it. So the first podcast Santa, yeah? Probably have to do something about the name. I imagine that's going to be copyrighted. So for now, we'll just call it podcast stalk. Yeah, drop in little bundles of podcastery into a podcast, maybe. Anyway, we'll come up with some sort of jingle just to keep people's attention. But what we're referring to here is a 51-minute NPR pod named One Head, Two Brains, How the Brain's Hemispheres Shape the World We See. Very good pod. I'll put a link in the description, but that's where you want to be heading for slightly more scientific analysis on this particular topic. But for now, back to Manorbier.
So yeah, I think my opinion is that I think Asperger's and I think dyslexia are very naturally developing conditions, and it's about how you process information and how you think. I think we're only just starting to learn. So there's like with all psychological conditions, like there's a lot of arguments about what it is and what it isn't, and then we kind of build it up, and then through the process of elimination and just more understanding, more research, we can we ground ourselves in a bit more like, oh, okay, what is this? And I think we're moving in the way at the moment where we're thinking with Asperger's, it's like, oh, actually, I think this is a processing thing. I don't think this is an intellectual thing. But whereas with autism, there's almost always a disability essentially.
Got you.
If you
I understand now.
if you use my two brothers as like a grounding point, so one of my brothers needs like physical support. He needs help wiping things. Don't know who's listening.
Yeah, sure.
And he needs so he can't look after himself. Whereas my other brother, he's who with Asperger's, it's not a intellectual disability, it's a social
Personal
disability.
care, that's what it's called.
That's it, personal care.
It's personal care.
My brother with autism needs personal care. My brother with Asperger's doesn't. And also,
Does he have a job?
yes,
that's
yeah. And so when you look at the research, pretty like the consensus. This is the consensus basically. There are still outliers, and so like people because it's still
if you need to categorise a disability for some
pretty
reason,
much.
then
I mean, there's a tick. There's a tick. Yeah,
of course,
there's
you
a
need a
tick
checklist,
list.
man. Otherwise, it's not like. Otherwise, it's just
Undefinable.
everyone's. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So if we actually
It's
don't
not.
want to,
It's definitely not perfect.
medicate
It's
and-
definitely
and-
not perfect.
and
That's what I mean,
progress
yeah, you need
things,
to allow
then you need
allowances
to.
for
For sure, and I like that. I think that's a useful way of categorising stuff. I think we categorise too much at the minute.
Well,
do,
it's
that's
more.
Especially
I think
in psychology, I think.
no.
In
I think.
everything. In everything.
Psychology, I think,
Psychology.
needs categories.
I
just
think we
to
need more
help us.
information. I think we need to be
We need
doing
more
more research.
information, but we need to not categorize people as much.
Agreed.
I mean, do
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
research,
yeah,
but
yeah.
don't be like.
Agreed.
I met
How
a
do we
kid the
stop
other
that?
day. he
Yeah, I
was-
don't think.
How do we
So
switch
a
that
kid,
off?
yeah,
That's
we
gonna be
don't.
interesting. It's
we
going to
are
be an
You do
interesting
need to
experiment.
switch that off.
It's gonna be an interesting
It's very
experiment.
important. Like there was
But
a
you need
kid
to
who
be-
was 4 years old, and the kid's like, and he came in to do the survey with us, and he's like, and he was great. He was really cool, and he was chatty. He was a bit jittery and stuff, but nothing like a kid. And the parents were like, oh yeah, sorry about him. He's got really bad ADHD. I was like, what?
Oh wait,
4 years old.
this is don't. Yeah, and
That's what I
everything-
mean. Like,
Yeah, I
so
understand.
Don't
all
get me
these-
started on like because I think there's a lot of
And then they like, yeah, we give him medications. Like, fuck, he's
Yeah,
4
I
years
was
old.
gonna
He's
say that.
supposed to be.
Yeah,
thinking.
exactly.
Yeah, this is how kids
The-
are. It's
It's
like,
like,
let
no,
them
you
be,
being a
let
bad
them work it
parent
out.
can't
Yeah,
handle
yeah,
the
yeah.
way the kids act.
that's the problem is with the research. A lot of the research is funded, and so therefore like, and this is social science in general. Like,
Yeah, and
there's a thing that I mean, this is a big thing at the moment actually. Well, maybe not at the moment. Maybe in the last few years, but whether or not research, can you in research can you find nothing, and is that all right?
Yeah.
So if you do a big study and then you find nothing,
Yeah.
like that's a big bad thing. Like if you're doing a PhD and you're studying it and you're at the end of your PhD is like the answer is I don't know, I didn't find anything. That's a big boo boo.
That's actually really important.
But it's hugely important.
Yeah.
And so what that leads to is a lot
That's
of
the
people
thing,
kind
at
of like
least
trying to
data selection.
fake it.
Yeah.
And
and force an idea into the world that isn't true.
And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't ask
yeah.
null hypothesis. That's one of the things that's very rarely.
The silly thing about
Exactly.
academia research is it needs to be new, not how can we evolve.
But this
we
is
just got
different.
this research. Let's evolve that research. Let's evolve.
Fair point. The
No, what
question
we need
needs
to do
be a
is
new
find something
question.
new.
Yeah.
the difference is
That's
like
how
with
PhDs
natural
work.
science and social science. With natural science, you're looking for facts, and with social science, we accept. Well, it's part of the philosophy of social science is that you recognise that you're not going to find a fact, or you're not. The fact will exist.
Yeah.
As we
Your
as
data,
humans.
narrow
your
it
data
down
points
or
are all
something.
narrative anyway. The data points aren't actually grounded in physics or logic.
Exactly. Well, they
much-
definitely are, but you've got to be.
It's much harder to define.
Well, that's it. You recognise the fact that you're probably not going to find it,
Correct.
and so you've got to reduce it. You've got to reduce it down to 0.5%.
I like that. That's a nice way of explaining it.
Um,
That's why they get much less credibility at the minute, because it's not as definitive when it comes to an answer.
Exactly.
as-
Well,
as
and if you
science.
listen-
You're
Science.
if
not
you
going to win a Nobel Prize for that, probably.
No. But a lot of people with massively high EQs end up getting Nobel Prizes. So.
But I mean, when
I think
not for
Nobel
not for
Prizes,
stu-
Nelson
but-
Mandela and so on would probably be like he wasn't like a logic scientist.
No, I
was
mean
he?
like
He
if you're
was
doing
much
studies, you get Nobel
a social
Prizes for ones
scientist
that
more
proves
than anything.
massive for someone that proves massive things. It's not for someone
Yeah,
that
which
proves that.
I would argue
it
Nelson
counts.
Mandela was more of a social scientist than he was an actual scientist. I mean, so his
How would you argue that? Like,
his-
it's very obvious. He did nothing
Exactly.
for science.
Exactly. That's it.
oh, hang on. That's
Who's
not saying
arguing-
He did
who's
nothing
arguing
for
against
science.
George?
social scientists do stuff for science.
Exactly, of course they
That's
do.
not less than.
No, as in like specifically in the
proved- he
field.
proved-
Well,
he
I'm saying he
proved-
said
he
a
proved
scientist
that-
or a social scientist. So I was like, yeah, obviously a social scientist.
Exactly.
He wasn't a scientist in any way. Was
Yeah, but
he?
science,
but he-
but doing
but
social science is a science.
He did experiments
Yeah,
such
but
as
he was
ending
making
apartheid
a
and so on.
distinction between natural science and social science.
Correct, I
wasn't
was, yeah.
Yeah, but
saying it's
And
no
then,
way
therefore,
he's a
then
natural
the
scientist.
argument was that Craig
Is
said
he?
that no one won the Nobel Prize who was a social scientist, or very
I didn't
few,
say that.
very few.
No,
No, but that's a different type of Nobel Prize.
We're talking past each other. I was trying to say that if you were,
It's a Nobel Peace Prize. Like it's a different kind.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
a Nobel Prize.
No, I'm talking. yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
Thank you.
yeah.
So they're all talking in semantics, sure.
But you're just talking about yeah.
I love that you
meant
say
if
I would argue. I could argue for days.
the only way to decide this is we all need to do crunches, and
Yeah.
whoever does the most crunches wins.
I mean, I've
Actually,
eaten like 20 crunchies before, so I could eat a crunch.
Nice.
What do you mean?
No, I mean like ab crunches, man.
Alright.
Get in
No,
there.
no, I meant eating crunches.
Crunchy
Oh,
sounds
fair
good though.
Pretty fucking tasty.
That I mean, we went way off topic with this one.
Yeah, we did.
So just
So my job is.
just to summarise, you got two other jobs. What are the other jobs?
I also
that's
make
everyone's
I also
drink.
make handpans.
I can actually get a drink. I've got my
Yeah,
card.
Go.
You want to?
Well, yeah. Another
I
log.
feel like I'm just interrupting people on this podcast.
Yeah.
I need to
okay.
pee.
All right. We'll wrap up the pod, man.
All right, have a pause.
Oh, we can have pause.
Yeah, little pause.
3, 2, 1, go, George.
Appreciate it. Two more jobs on the podcast.
Yeah, so basically I explain why I ended up in the position of managing my brother's service. Basically, we were with a charity. So the way it works is that you normally go with the provider. So the council give you a package based on your so the individual's needs. You know, if they assess it, like okay, so that, oh, okay, blah blah blah. You need 1-to-1 at home. So my brother's service is 1-to-1 at home, 2-to-1 in the community.
Okay.
And then they you know.
Quite simple. That's a good way to think about things as well.
Yeah,
It's like,
totally. It's
inside,
like
you
a
need
tick list. It's like,
person.
okay, you need this much, this, that, and then we need to
If
do
you're
this
outside,
much
you need
pay,
people
blah, blah,
with
blah.
them and not one. Yeah, gotcha.
And then they give you a pay packet to be able to pay for all that.
Yep.
And so what happens normally is that you go with a provider, and so there's lots of different companies or charities, and then you pick one. So it's like, right, so the council will say, here's your money for a coffee, and then you get to choose where you get your coffee from. Do I go to Starbucks, Costa, or the new guys down the block? And then you choose. So we were with a main charity, but we were with them for quite a long time. I'm not going to name names.
Okay.
But we were with them for probably about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And what was happening is that, so my brother's 2-to-1 in the community, 1-to-1 at home. So in the community, he's got 2 people with him, and then when he's at home, he's got 1 person.
Okay.
But what we found is that was often happening is that we'd like go over as a surprise visit, because when you're, the way they run the whole service was that they were like, okay, you give us the package, and then that's ours now. So we'll manage it in the way we manage it, and so you'd be like, oh, where's the money going? Oh, well, we handle the accounts. You don't need to worry about that. We think it's important that the parents don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. You just pay us the money, we'll do the care.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And so what we found,
Transactional.
You develop a trust.
well, no, you don't. That's the thing. Well, we didn't. So basically,
Gotcha.
what was happening is that we'd do surprise visits, which is
it's
he's
fine.
He's
It
my
should be
brother and
fine
he's
to
my
do that,
mum's
of
son.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you want to
And
drop
then
in
you'd
on
be
your
like,
brother, yeah.
oh, this is your 2-to-1 time, and there's only 1 staff member on.
Gotcha.
Where's the other staff? And like, oh,
We're paying for those 2 staff.
yeah. So are we going? Yeah, exactly. So he's like, are we going to see that money again, or
Sure.
what? Or
Yeah. How's this work?
yeah.
Yeah,
And then you get
That's
the
bad
response.
as a charity, sorry.
Well, it happened all the time, and then what you get is they're kind of like, oh well, we handle the accounts, don't worry about it, blah 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 blah.
But I would say, having worked for a charity, just as a side note, it's really hard.
Of course,
Hard
to
to
find
get
the staff and to keep
sometimes.
people staffed up. Of course.
I know a manager of a charity who fucking worked her ass off, and she.
Oh, all of them
Try
do.
gets-
All of them do.
Charities
Without a doubt.
start
was
with
the
the
most
purest intention.
genuine,
There's no doubt about
Her
it.
mum died, and she still came in the next day
Yeah.
to help someone with autism. because
Dude,
she
we're not
Where
having to
was
go
the
at
money?
charities here. We're
Where
not
was the
having to go
money?
at
If they
charities.
didn't spend that money
That's-
on the
yeah,
person,
that's a good-
where's the fucking money?
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
that's the questions that
It's
we
more
were
of a,
That's what we were
Yeah,
asking.
okay, yeah.
So basically, what happened
Do
is
you use
that
agencies and stuff?
they did, but that was when we were not in control of anything. So we basically give them, so the money would go to them, and they decide. And so you would get agency, but so after about 7 years of this,
long time.
yeah, I mean, people have gone. This is my story about it, but there are much worse stories out there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sorry, man,
hear 'em.
and yeah, something I wanted to say. It's just amazing to me. So I've met so many people who have autism who family don't really even partake.
Oh, so have I. Yeah.
It's horrible. And it's so nice to meet. Someone
Thanks,
so
man.
involved.
No, it's
yeah,
It's
yeah, sure.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
yes.
I can only
But-
imagine.
And so the carers are actually the autistic individual's family.
Yeah.
In a way. And so when
Contact time wise, yeah.
in
For
terms
sure.
of familiarity and so yeah, it's nice that.
It's so I worked in. So basically, I went to uni and did fine art. And so when I went to university, that was the first time. I was about 18, and the first time I'd been. So my parents are together, but it was me and my mum basically who brought up my brother. So my mum, because he's very, very severe, could be very aggressive, would run away a lot, and he's not physically disabled. So for my mum, the older he got, the less able she got.
Yeah.
And so it was getting closer and closer and closer, where they were on par. And it happened really quickly, so he would just run off, and she wouldn't be able to keep up with him. And so, or he'd get aggressive.
But it's the adrenaline as well, right? Because a lot of people get that adrenaline when they get.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole different. That's an avenue that we could
Yeah.
I'd love
it's,
to-
It's
oh,
a side stream that you could
Yeah.
easily
Very,
fucking.
yeah,
It's really
launch off onto.
absolutely fascinating. But yeah,
Yeah.
so basically what would happen is it was me and my mum looking after my brother, and then I went to university and I found myself in this position where it's like, oh shit, I'm a tool without a purpose. So when I was 18, 19, I kind of just went a bit like, shit, yeah, this is brilliant. I don't have to. No one's relying on me. Blah 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 blah. And then so. The way it worked out was we got him into supported living when I went to university, and so it's kind of like we both left at the same point.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Which is
Perfect,
the
well, perfect.
natural progression
Yeah, good,
for
good
kids to leave the home. and
exactly,
that
because
kind
we're a year in between. So
Yeah,
I'm
that
31,
makes
he's
sense.
30,
Yeah.
and long story short, we went with this provider, and then so we got probably about 2 years ago, we were like, okay, we don't think this is really working. The manager at the time, we figured he was really good. He was really good. He was an amazing guy, and so we proposed to him. It's like, well, we're thinking about going with another provider, and we're actually thinking about, and so they give you as little or as much responsibility as you want.
I see.
So instead of having no responsibility, they give you whatever you want. And we were like, yeah, we're really interested in it. What do you think? And he was like, sounds amazing. So my mum was an accountant in her previous life, and she was like, well, I can do the accounts, I can do all this kind of stuff. So you would just be in charge of the team, just the team, the house, running the house, all this kind of stuff. Would you be interested in doing it? He said yes. So it was really, really risky, because basically if it fell through,
Responsibility was on you.
if you think of it like a business deal, if I think of it like a business. So if you are in a if you're getting, in terms of the council, you're at the mercy of. It's like a bidding kind of war.
Yes. Agreed.
So you have a certain amount of money, and then
that.
you get a certain package, and then so certain people will, if you're in a position where you're desperate, you have to go with what's available.
Correct.
And so we were very aware of that. So we didn't, and I personally didn't go through that because I was too young. So it was mostly my mum who went through. My mum and my dad who went through decision making of like, how are we going to pay this? I mean, I was like 15, 16, so I knew of it, but I wasn't in charge of making the decision
At the
making.
same time, it's probably for a good reason.
I was not prepared, and I wasn't aware of anything.
You shouldn't have to deal with that responsibility at that age. Is the other.
No, the pressure was definitely there.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like watching something unfold.
Yeah. You've got some influence, but not. You're not a key player in that decision.
Exactly.
Which is correct, in all honesty.
Definitely. I didn't have the life
decision-making age
experience
after 16, 17, 18, when you become, and then you start to be able to have credibility.
I was obsessed with girls.
Of course, man.
I didn't know anything else.
Of course, you're 16, man.
That was my priority.
That's it. That's fair.
So this was a really risky move. But what happened is that so we eventually went with this other company. And it was a company, not a charity, and they gave us as much control as we wanted. So they gave us open accounts, so we were in control of the money. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, it was a really risky move and really good. It could have been potentially it was going to be amazing. What happened was the guy who was our manager at the time. What was happening was he was. So in defence of him, he was going through a really rough time. Like I think his dad had died. And it was really, really tough. But this other company started. What happened was there was two incident reports. So 2 incident reports were filed. One of which the staff had handed in, which was my brother had run off. He'd pushed an old lady, and he'd bolted, which is a massive incident. That's like really potentially catastrophic. And the other incident report that was handed in was that same date, same time, everything. Was that my brother went for a run, and the staff had to catch up with him. Both submitted by the same, one by the staff, one by the manager. And so the other the manager of that was like, the manager of the external manager picked up these reports and said, well, which one is it? Because what's that signifying is that you're doctoring the reports, which is huge, because if you're not telling us what's actually happening, we're really fucking. Of course, we can't really
what do we trust here? Yeah, where's the trust?
The result of that is that he walked out. Didn't come back the next day, and so that
he was the manager who submitted the running report, or was he the manager?
So he was the one who was documenting the reports, doctoring the reports. Sorry, what?
So he took out the push incident.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That is bad.
It's really bad, and especially because if anything,
you should walk away at that stage. I think. It's the only way to do it.
I think
it's neglect, isn't it?
Why?
So you get punished for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, agreed. But you know what I mean. It's like you 100% stand down because there's no chance
really
that next day you should not be managing because you know you fucked up that big. Yeah.
Well, it's more the fact that by leaving without giving notice, that means that the whole service was then unintentionally because it could potentially get shut down. It could get shut down. Yeah, exactly. It could get shut down, and if it gets shut down, then we're in a massive. So we could lose everything. We could lose. So everything would be reassessed.
Square one, I guess. Right?
Which is
that through a social worker or who's?
No, he wasn't social worker. He was.
I mean, the assessment.
Oh, that was So that was
the
Is
overarching
it-
company. They do
yeah.
this.
So they're a third party,
okay, sorry.
basically.
Yeah.
Third
Sorry,
party
I'm
company.
jumping in.
No, it's cool.
No, that's a good question to clarify.
Yeah, definitely. So that's why I am now managing, because I just finished a master, an MPhil in autism research, and so it happened perfect timing.
Gotcha.
Not perfect timing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it happened in a position where it's like, oh,
Good timing still.
yeah, I was free,
Yeah.
so I didn't need to quit anything.
Gotcha.
But I jumped in to act as manager.
Wow.
And then so it was one of those kind of situations where I walked in and I was like, okay, because I'd been working in the field for like part time for probably 7 years actually, since university.
Fair play. Okay.
And I've worked in like challenging behaviour units.
Oh man, you've got experience. You understand.
Totally,
the
and I
world.
had really good training actually, because the first job I had was with
One
adults
of the best jobs I think ever.
sport work. Depends on
Challenge behaviour.
depends on who's running, like, who's leading you. Because I had a guy who didn't use restraint and he didn't use medication, and it was incredible. He was just like, no, there's no. And so when I use the analogy of
That's-
saying
for sure.
like, you don't when you want something but you can't communicate it, your only option is to take it. He was the guy who kind of told me that, and he was phenomenal. And he was in Cardiff with a charity, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Fair play.
But then I've worked in other places, and so he set me up really well, especially because I had like a homegrown approach to challenging behaviour. So I was very like raw. I knew that what right and wrong, but I didn't know the professional sense. You know.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
So you understood the context, just didn't know exactly how to
How to do it.
do. Yeah. That's so cool.
Especially with someone who
That's
wasn't my
actually
brother.
A really good way to learn anything.
Oh, I was really lucky, really lucky, and so.
Mentoring is a huge thing, actually.
So going back to running a service, I think that the leadership is one of the key fundamental.
No, mate, it's also the most obscure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
As
one.
a
It's one.
skill set,
It's one
as
that's
a result,
overlooked.
exactly.
Totally overlooked.
But it's
Amazing.
so difficult to actually teach that.
That's
It's
why I say natural born leaders. It's like,
Exactly, and there's a lot of truth in that in terms of.
It's
You
because
need
it's a skill set
a.
we don't know how. It's like interpersonal skills.
But-
It's really hard to develop that. We don't have
Yeah.
an effective way of developing.
Well, no, I think it's what
It's
it is.
complicated.
It takes a
Yeah, it's so
long time.
complex.
We've
Craig's
made it
doing
complicated,
crunches again.
that. Whilst maintaining eye contact. Keep going, Ceri.
Yeah.
You do it without using your feet.
And one.
Like that, no, because all my weight is like a fucking seesaw.
Yeah, then that's the-
It's
Do it without your
I
feet,
can't,
Craig.
I can't make my legs weigh this equal amount of this side.
That's impressive.
My feet now weigh 6 kilograms.
I can do it. Sorry, diverting.
So yeah, I
Went into managing the.
I went into managing the service through
Well,
like there was no other option. It was either gonna sink, or me and my mum needed to run
Take it on.
And it was a case of you walk into it, and then all of a sudden
I don't really have
you
cars.
just recognise that it's like a shit tip.
Of course.
Not
yeah.
in terms of like the house, but in terms of the paperwork and
Yeah,
the records.
yeah.
It's like
This is the thing.
Shit, is this
I
been-
bet. Yeah, it's nuts.
yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah.
So going back, so the original question, which was probably like half an hour ago, that you asked me now,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so the other
So you've taken on that's your kind of primary job.
that's my primary job, but that's part time because I'm his brother and because of the council. It was important that I wasn't jumping into it full time
Oh, nice,
because
yeah.
it makes more sense that we have. So I'm the man. Me and my mum are the managers, but because we're family members, it's really important that there's someone who's not a family member.
Yes.
Who's like in
Outward perspective, external kind of
Perspective,
viewpoint.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm really aware of because I've worked in a lot of places where when the family members are running it, it gets really it will get toxic in one of two ways. It'll either get financial abuse where the parents will be like, oh, we're going to get them to like buy my shopping, and then it will evolve into like, oh, they're going to tarmac my drive, and then it kind of
They do swear.
it happens naturally, and it happens in a way that
Down.
you don't see.
Like baby
that-
down. Sorry.
Oh, baby down, yeah.
Baby down. It's just pay with some
Everyone,
respect.
don't
so-
Here's part of the podcast where George made a baby cry.
No, the baby fell over on its own. well away from me. I don't
Want to
even-
clarify that it was on its
After
own.
George threw a stick. Fell on its own.
This is why we need video
throwing
here.
that stick and then a stone afterwards.
when she was on the floor, yeah.
I saw you kick it.
I think it's weird that you call the baby it. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. We got you on audio.
I'd rather throw a stone at a baby than call it
Trapped. I can't find my way out.
Put that in a podcast and smoke it.
Edit this out, George.
Can't do that.
This needs to be edited.
Yeah,
That's all good. Old-fashioned fun, my friend.
It's all dig graves.
Yeah,
George
exactly.
wanted to throw a stick at it. At it.
Oh, there you go. You've got company now.
Yeah,
You're both.
if
If you wait long enough,
Yeah, I'd probably call
We'll
it.
all
focus.
Given enough time, we'll all. It's like the infinite monkey.
She's
thing.
fine now. She's fine. She's back on her feet. She's
It's all
like,
that nonsense.
Just
Yeah.
restrain yourself, George.
drama. Jesus. Right, carry on. Wait.
I can't remember.
We're talking about procrastination, digression, weren't we?
How to digress a podcast. That was it. Yeah. Well, so that's nuts. So you got this. You got managing the service for your brother. What else outside of that though? What else? You got pan pipes. Right?
No, handpans.
Another hippie instrument.
Pan pipes. What's that?
Pan pipes.
No, it's not even the wrong thing. It's the wrong thing. So let's get off pan pipes.
Hand
So things
pans.
that Peruvian people
Yeah, what
play
the
on
fuck?
the-
Pan pipes are like.
on streets
Pan pipes
in Bristol.
Yeah.
Were they hand?
No, I don't make those.
Handpans. What are handpans?
This is Chinese
Describe
whispers.
them.
Handpans are an inverted
That's what I mean.
steel drum. So they're like UFOs,
They're just steel drums.
but inverted. Yeah. So they're like
What do you
it's like a bit
On the outside, it's like a bumpy rather than.
It's like a bowl. Yeah, a bowl.
Yeah, they're like a UFO.
You still play with your
UFO.
hands?
Oh, cool.
Yeah, totally.
That's
Do you
nice
put
fun.
rings on? People put rings on to get different sounds out of it, or am I just imagining that? Is it just hand?
No, yeah, it's just your hand.
Okay.
But is it? What's the difference?
It's a steel drum, but on the outside. So you get
Yeah. So
different
you think of like
reverberation.
it's like a
It's
bell.
a lot softer.
Oh,
It's like a bell in the shape of a UFO,
That's really
but
cool.
with notes on the top. They sound incredible. They're really, really cool. I really like them.
And still
Are
drums
they
you play with a
designed
stick.
for each
Don't
note?
you? Whereas that means you can play with a hand, and
What's
you've
the-
got more fingers to articulate with, so
Yeah.
you can play a
And
lot
more
So you
dexterity
design
in your
it so
fingers
like
as well,
this
as opposed to a
bit
stick.
here is an E, this is a C, this is a B.
Fascinating.
Really?
Don't question me too much on this because I don't tune them.
How do you make them?
I'm not
How do you
allowed to say
tune them?
actually.
Ooh, fascinating.
Yeah, like so
It's a
it's
guild thing.
well,
Proper guild.
it's
That's just how
basically
you get
it's a really interesting.
You tighten the metal or like you heat?
So isn't it dense?
say.
You're not allowed to say.
Oh, really?
But no, well, essentially it's like a drum.
treatment.
It's like a drum. So you I can't tell you how it's done, but it's like a drum. But instead of using skin, you use steel, and so like you stretch the steel to get a certain kind of note.
You thin it out in places.
Well,
yeah,
you've
totally.
seen like xylophones or whatever. They have that's how.
How do you
it's-
do that?
You've seen the
Manufacture-
xylophone, right? They have different size things, and they resonate differently. Different parts
Yeah,
have different.
yeah,
Yeah, but I'm
thicknesses.
just saying in terms of
Steel.
manufacturing,
So
you know,
just
you
to
have
clarify
quench-
He's not allowed to tell you.
Yeah, just to
Right,
clarify,
right.
I'm not being a knob by not saying. It's more the fact.
Why can't you say it again?
Well,
It's a guild
because
thing. It's like a secret thing. Yeah?
well, no, it's basically there's so few makers in the world. It's really interesting in the fact that like there's so few people doing it, and it's going to be like it's going to explode.
You think it's going to continue
I think
to
it'd be
grow?
cool.
I think it's going to continue to grow in a sense that people are going to mass produce them,
Okay.
and so it's going to kill off a lot of the competition. But currently, so in the
But
last,
I mean, you still got custom guitar makers. So if you
Well, that's what I mean.
manufacture something, it loses quality.
yeah, exactly. But so that's the thing. Like, it's a really interesting
Most of the
market because
Yeah,
but
it's not always, but yeah.
But it's a really interesting market in that. So for a long time, it was like people wanted them but couldn't get them, and so that when they could get them, they'd be happy with like really shit instruments. And so what's happening now is that there's basically in the last few years is that anyone who wants them can get them, and then suddenly there's been a markup on like good ones and bad ones,
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
and
It's developing. Isn't
yeah,
it?
totally. But it's happening really quickly. Like and you don't really get that anymore. When within the next few years, you can get one wherever. And like there's shops in London and stuff that are like.
It's a different dynamic to products, isn't it? I mean, that'd be fascinating.
Well, no,
how
it's
products-
like a micro.
Product,
As in, I mean, as in
just,
society, because things
bad.
can become popular very quickly. The internet means that something can explode, and all of a sudden it's like we need X amount manufactured, and then it's how does that disseminate? How do people start manufacturing? It's an interesting dynamic, and I've never really thought about it before.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
It's really interesting to watch as it happens.
But it's fads, isn't it? It's fads and crazes and so on. It's
there's a real weird culture.
There's a real momentum behind things. Any idea, and when the momentum picks up, people are like, "Oh my god, it's the whole thing." It's like the Face app, where people make themselves look old. It's like sweeping the world and careful because you're gonna snap yourself, and all that data goes to the Face app company, and the Face app company can own all your knowledge. And
it's just so interesting how.
It's like, yeah, I get it. It's just the crazes these days get blown out of all proportion.
It's just amazing how momentum.
Handpan thing can be the same thing.
Yeah, how momentum builds.
Or DNA, was it the DNA stuff that you send your DNA for? They have like profile. I don't know what the contracts are, but you're sending your DNA to be screened.
Like CBD is a big one as well.
Oh, yeah, the government's got a DNA
oil.
Yeah, like doesn't actually.
Everyone's
do
DNA.
much,
did someone get done on
record?
Because it's so well identified with weed. It's like a big craze now, isn't it? CBD.
Yeah, I don't know what the science is in that. A lot of people, I've had this
It's a
conversation
good
with people.
medical treatment.
Yeah, but I don't know what. Like, it seems to work, but I don't know how much research has gone into that.
Well,
But it needs to be like a medicine. Like you can't just give someone
There needs
a
to be
tiny
a
bit of
reason.
morphine and be like, yeah, that's morphine, so just have that. Where
But something like
you
omega
take-
3s, for example, are something that we can just like. It's so omega. You were talking about Rhonda Patrick, and one of the substances she just says you should definitely be having is omega 3s. And so far, there's not been any studies that say, oh, you're having too many omega 3s. So it's like a safe thing to do that with, and maybe CBD is a similar thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it's safe, but I think as a treatment, like as a medical treatment, it needs to be stronger. Like if you have cancer, like it's a big thing with cancer and pain relief and
Well,
appetite,
you
but
need to
it's
do
like much more concentrated.
But you
And
need to-
now it's just become a fad. Like, oh, they use it for this, so we're just going to make one that's like
Right.
100 times.
Homeopathic.
Yeah, no, I guess it is.
Oh, dude, I mean, you look at Prague. I mean, when I'm on a stag do in Prague, it's like, because it's slightly legalised there now, like you can get weed beer. I was
Yeah,
like, what the fuck is
you've got
marijuana
that
beer? It's like, that
sweet.
makes no sense. 'Cause
wants that?
Like, so you're getting high but also depressed.
Yeah.
So you're level. It's like water, basically. It's like, what the
it's
fuck's
not
going on?
getting
normal.
Because it's got a marijuana flag on it, you're like, oh,
just
great.
getting a
Oh, I'm
taste.
drinking that because it sounds
try
like
it?
I'm going to get high.
Yeah.
No, I didn't try it. I tried marijuana mints, which are bullshit as well.
You're just as bad,
But-
George. Don't try to hide yourself from it.
I'm just as bad, exactly. I'm a slave to
But
marketing,
there's-
man.
I was
Don't
telling
get me
you
wrong.
about
Oh, fuck, I'm first out the door.
There's a coffee shop in Clifton
You got to write a
that
story on me. I'm fucking sold, my friend.
sells shots of CBD in their coffee.
Yeah.
The 10
Just
milligrams,
English
right?
fuck
in
all.
Clifton.
10 milligrams of CBD in their coffee, whereas like a normal dose is like 500 milligrams.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So
just
what is
placebo,
the
basically.
point?
It's
And some things
microdosing.
require a certain amount to activate a receptor.
Correct.
So it's like
Exactly.
it's one of the things that I've heard, because a lot of people are like, oh, when you die, you have you're flooded with DMT and you have a trip. Like, you need X amount of parts per thousand to activate those cells, and actually the human body comes nowhere near enough at creating enough DMT to activate those receptors. So
Yeah, no doubt. That's a really good point there.
Science
That's really
What,
good.
when you die?
yeah. So but, like, there's no evidence currently that we can generate anywhere near enough to get the effect of DMT.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to
But we
metabolize
don't really know
DMT
what
so
consciousness
quickly.
is, so we can't really say that.
I don't think it has anything to do. It's just about a physical response to.
Yeah, but I mean, when you
events.
die, maybe the consciousness is like.
But I mean, that's a different. That's not what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
I
not what
mean,
I'm
I was
talking
talking
none
about
of
the
us-
actual
none of us-
chemical.
just- yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah, fascinating. Okay, I think
Anyway,
if we
sorry,
wrap
that's not a good
it
route
up, wrap
to
it
go.
up slowly. So, third job. We've got 3 jobs. We've got handpans.
Oh, I also I lecture. Well, I give every now and again. I give lectures about my experience of autism from a brother's perspective.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and
You get paid for that as well.
yeah,
Sweet, man.
Where's
Good
that?
job.
Do
I'd love to go to one of them.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
like we
I'll
just
come
had
along, man. Yeah, for sure. I think we got
basically,
we've got all the content there.
No, I just support it, man. Yeah, sounds cool.
Do you, George?
I'm going to bring
Wrap
up
that up.
all the questions.
I'm gonna
I brought up
recreate
in
all
this
my
one
slides.
at your
And you can
lecture.
sell this to
Just-
them. Don't
Hey.
get carried.
Yeah, I'm joking.
I'm
Go on.
Sorry,
I'm
where
water.
do you
Goodbye,
do
goodbye.
your lectures?
So
Good to say it on
basically, it's
Free promo, man.
oh well yeah, but basically they're normally university kind of lectures, like mainly Bristol University. It was Cardiff a little bit.
Not Yui.
Right, I'm going to be part of
Just
Bristol
Bristol.
next year. I can come to your lectures.
Yeah, true.
I might do some as well.
Well, I'll give you a shout. I think
Yeah,
they're
let me know.
so they're normally
Yeah, let us know.
it's more
How do you structure that lecture? It'd be interesting to know. What's the general flow of that? How long have you got on stage?
2 hours.
That's a long lecture, dude.
Yeah, they're like.
Go on.
So
how
they're
do you break it down?
They're
then?
not.
After. Yeah.
Basically, it comes down to my upbringing my upbringing.
20 minutes upbringing.
Hour upbringing,
Nice.
and then hour on how the service is going.
Gotcha.
But then
Q&A?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I normally I kind of like it when it's like so when you're giving the lecture, you talk. You
They put the hand up and they go.
Yeah, I think it works. I think it works better.
Interactive.
Yeah,
It does. It makes people more
Do you
immersed.
do
in it.
icebreakers as well?
And you get to deal with hecklers.
What's that when you like get
You play like
naked
a
or something?
No, you play a silly game. or some
Everyone
shit,
get
yeah.
naked. Everyone see each other naked.
I think
we're
I
all
think-
comfortable.
Why'd you go straight there?
Clothes back on. Lecture begins.
I think that's the best icebreaker, isn't it?
That is a great icebreaker.
That'd be insane.
Wait,
Everyone get as
this
naked
guy
as
isn't
they want to
comfortable.
get right now. No one.
This guy isn't comfortable.
Everyone take,
Bring it to the front.
Everyone take off your shackles. But men, keep your clothes on.
And no staring at certain places. Probably edit that out.
Yeah, I went back to normal conversation.
We really did well there. And then okay, so you structure it just in terms of an hour of
I was
context and an hour of delivery.
I was going into long stay hospitals and evaluating whether or not people need to, as part of the panel, evaluating whether or not people need to be there as like a family carer. So I'd be part of a panel. You go into long stay hospitals. There'd be people with profound behavioural problems, and so you'd assess whether or not they need to be there or need to be moved on.
Gotcha.
Which was, I found it really hard, if I'm honest. Mainly because there'll be a lot of people who wouldn't need to be there, but there'd be nowhere for them to be moved on to. So there'd be this person, the family structure broke down. They did something that meant that the council or the authority had to like remove them from the home.
Mm-hmm.
The parents are too old, and the adult was an adult. Oh, sorry, the person was an adult, and so the care structure broke down, and they needed to be almost sectioned basically. But then it was only meant to be for a certain amount of time, but there was nowhere for them to progress onto.
With you.
And so
It's
that's
a limited viewpoint, and you're kind of trying to catch up on that. I mean, one thing I will say in defence of local government here, having worked in it for the last year and a half or so, is the priorities
full of
change.
wankers.
No, the priorities change all the fucking time, man.
it's hard. There's
It's
no
difficult because they're always under budgetary pressure.
100%. Yeah, and it's not. And so the problem wasn't.
But I guess what my understanding of what you just said is, that there was limited sight over where we're going next. But that's only because they have to be so reactive to actually how much money they're getting.
Oh no,
there was no.
I wasn't.
I just wanted to put.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, and so that's why essentially what I'm doing why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
To take the burden off.
Is because I recognise that there was a for people with profound autism who are potentially quite aggressive. Well, who are aggressive. There's a real lack of options for them, and so I want to be working. I'm trying to work towards replicating what I'm doing for my brother, because at the moment it's working perfectly, and that's through trial and error. And
It's good to take those risks as well. I think that's one of the problems, is being brave enough to take those risks and make mistakes, but do them with the right intentions.
Yeah. And I
Because
think-
otherwise you just have safe practice and then nothing changes.
exactly.
But that's almost describing the perfect way to learn stuff.
Yeah,
So-
Like take risks, make mistakes with the right intentions.
But I've also got the drive
and then learn
because I'm
from
doing
it.
it.
Because it's the best way to learn, right? You make a few mistakes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
people are so scared to make
Experiences
mistakes.
is a
I guess
70,
because
20,
people's
10
lives are at
kind of
stake.
approach.
Or
I think that's
person,
it.
It's hard, but
The risks are higher.
I've
That's
got the.
why they-
I've got
Yeah,
the.
for that, but I mean, if it's with the right intentions, then it's like, well,
Yeah,
if
man.
I did the wrong intentions, it could have been just as bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
because
just-
otherwise just
never
neglect and
simple.
laziness kicks in.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
that's a good. I think that's a good
Almost
segue
make
though in
leeway
terms of
for
of
mistakes,
looking
maybe.
into
Yes.
your app as well. So if you want to just describe what that,
Oh, right,
that might
yeah.
be? So obviously, the next steps for you in your caring. Where do you go with that?
So basically,
talk to Craig on this one. I'm going to go for a slide.
Okay. So Craig, yeah. So basically, the fact that there's a complete, there's a gap in it really, because it's very, very new that people who are that profoundly autistic and that aggressive are being integrated into the community. And so when I say aggressive, I think I know that it's like a breakdown in care.
Yeah.
So if you go back to, if you think of yourself and then you think of your needs, so if you think of something as simple as I need to go to the toilet, and you're being essentially managed or controlled by this support worker, because you are essentially, like, if you take away...
Managed is probably the right word, right? Did you say controlled?
Potentially, hopefully yes, managed, but in a lot of ways it is controlled.
Yeah, I get. In the situation.
If you have a bad support worker, you are being controlled. Your communication around I'm desperate for the toilet right now, and you're not listening to me. You're looking at your phone, or I'm giving you the signals which are. They're not going to be normal signals. Yeah, exactly. So if you look at my brother, my brother's signals for I need the toilet is he's going to go find the toilet. And so a lot of people look at that and go, oh, he's just trying to walk off. Whereas you need to look at him and be like, no, he's trying to find a toilet. So you need to be the one who goes, do you need the toilet? This is the way to the toilet. If you communicate that to so you can say that to him, like.
That is so essential, just to emphasize, is how you say you need the toilet. This is the way to the toilet, not let's go find the
I will
toilet.
show you where the toilet is. And normally he does that when you as the support worker haven't anticipated that. Oh, okay, he's drunk this amount of water, he's had this amount of Coke, he needs to go to the toilet right now. Okay. So his automatic response is I'm gonna go find a toilet. And so that's what I mean by challenging behaviour. And so it's specifically with aggressive behaviour, it normally comes from a point where that's the last option. It's not it might become the first option as a result of the fact that the person that you're being supported by hasn't anticipated that. So there's a lot of these people in long stay hospitals, and I think that's what I want to do. I want to create. I think that it's.
Yeah, that's actually a fucking amazing idea. So basically a app that allows, like, you can always, so you're creating patterns of people, and then when they need certain requests, it's more identifiable. So it's almost like a...
Well, so like for my brother doesn't really work well with other people, and so with a lot of care homes, they're like, it works better as a business model if you put all these people in, because they're not giving you anything back. They're not creating money. So it makes sense financially if you put them all in one home. So if you have 8 people in one home, run by one manager, but it doesn't work because it
doesn't work. It really, I've worked with people like that, and it really doesn't work if one person isn't someone who should be. He doesn't want to be around.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my brother doesn't want to and shouldn't be, because he focuses
the nicest guy I've ever met as well.
Who's this?
Oh, I was just working with this guy who's quite heavily, profoundly autistic, and but he needed structure, like, but because he grew up in like an institute, like horrible, like he didn't really have he didn't have a family at all. His mum was really horrible to him and stuff, like. So he liked to know. His thing was that he wanted to be in control because he was never in control. Do you know what I mean? So he would go into the
attachment disorder on top of autism.
So he would go into the communal area, and then get like really upset if people. He'd want to be the last one to leave, or he'd want to be in control of the room, or he'd want to play the music. But if he was like, "Oh, today it's closed," he'd be so chilled in his own flat. Just like, do you know what I mean? So he would have been so good in his own area. He could control everything in his own play.
You can create a safe space.
The sad thing was he didn't have any way of getting to his own place. Like, but he had this insane ability to read emotions no one else could pick up on. Like, so.
Well, this is it, because you're put in a position where you have to. It's like survival. It's a survival thing. Isn't it? You have to recognise it, and even people. So this is the thing with autism, like an aspect. People think like, oh, it's a social disability.
They think, oh, they're not emotionally, they don't have sympathy.
Exactly.
It's the complete opposite. They have way too much, I would say.
Yeah, no, I'd probably agree with that.
Like I remember, like my gran passed away, like when I was like 3 or 4 years ago. But she passed away, and I didn't tell anyone about it. And he was just like, oh, I was driving somewhere, and he doesn't really speak very non-verbal, and then he's just like, he went like this, and he's like, oh, sorry, so sorry. I was like, what? Something, you're very sad, aren't you? And I was like, oh, yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and he was just like proper connected. It was a really amazing moment, actually. He was just so like deeply caring, and like I think that's what triggers him. He gets so connected with people.
It's a misconception, isn't it? When someone says like, "Oh, you're socially not able," it's like they think. I think. Well, someone with
so much you can talk about with it, man.
It goes on forever, and it's incredibly fascinating, and it's also misconceived. There's like it's so new, and like it's so. You've got people who don't want to identify as it, and then you've got people who only identify as it. There's so many like twists and turns, and then
But in a way, right? Because we are describing like a brain.
Yeah,
aren't
totally.
we?
And then
so like how insanely complex is it? So
exactly. And
as you keep going, it's just like a labyrinth of like, well, not at all a labyrinth actually. That's totally the wrong thing. A maze.
Well, but it's
of like you just twist and turns, and then sometimes you have to come back to get to this point.
It's
like,
human.
It's
It's natural. It's. I think this.
I love thinking about it, but it's like, wow, there's so much cool stuff. But yeah, I'd love to go on to one of your lectures, man, because I'm really interested in stuff. Like the thing that I really want to get to, and I'm slowly working towards, is consciousness. That's like the thing I find the most interesting.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Thing
And I think.
I mean,
I wanted to say to you before, like with AI, it's an incredible. The problem with like the kind of matrix concept is at the moment we're in a position where you're if you have a photo. So if like from right now I'm looking at you, and if I took a photo of you right now, and then I try to go in like zoom in on that photo, it's going to get more and more pixelated and more like it's just going to not be.
Yeah, you won't recognise the photo. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
But
it's
then
like
if it's
standing
like
in
in
front of
real
an
life,
elephant and you don't know that it's elephant until you move back. Is that
well, no. I mean, like, so if you've got a photo, it's a photo of this moment, and I like zoomed in on that photo, it'll get more and more pixelated. Whereas if I zoomed in on you right now with a telescope, it would give me more and more detail.
Yeah.
So I'd be looking at your atoms and all this
that's
kind of
really
stuff.
cool.
But if I looked at it from a photograph, it would be pixels,
So the point
which are
is
completely
live.
different.
Yeah, live and not live.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look, by being in what we were talking about before, like being in a virtual reality kind of thing, you know what the premises are. You know that it ends. Whereas in real life, it kind of we can go off into whatever.
Unless this is the whole thing, like this is already a really complex simulation, or whatever.
Well, yeah, potentially.
It doesn't matter.
There's
either way.
there's like you.
The point is we can still do that, regardless. If like say this is a really complicated simulation, and say we get to the point with VR that we can do it.
We should like if you take like the concept of infinity, we will get there, or it is reachable. You will like maybe not the human race, but essentially it is possible, potentially. If you think given infinite time,
not that far away.
Oh, I don't know. I think we're pretty far away.
No, I mean in terms of like the scale of how long life has been around, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Years.
No, yeah. Okay, yeah, I get you.
Not for us.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It really winds me up when people are like, oh, like in the next 30 years, we're going to be like Blade Runner.
No. Like I mean, in terms of, we were hunter-gatherers for millions of years.
Exactly.
We've been this civilized thing. Apparently, maybe we were. I mean, there are theories that maybe there were civilizations before this, whatever. I mean, I do love ancient history. I don't know if I believe it, but I love to think I love sci-fi.
There's
So
potential for it. No one knows anything absolutely.
yeah, like you look at the way they build these structures and stuff. So I like to think, and I don't care if it's right or wrong. It's just nice that before, like something happened, there was a mass extinction or whatever. We were down like a conscious path. You know, like now we're down like a commercial, capitalist kind of path, aren't we? Technological.
In terms of society.
So I was saying,
right?
like, yeah, like so our structure. So there's so many branches, right? Like we were saying before. So what if before we were down like a consciousness path, like everyone, like the way, like shamans, they were doing a lot of like ayahuasca, DMT, like they had these very insanely structured things that represented space and like things in space, like the way all over the world. Like how did that happen at the same sort of times? Like why was this happening in Egypt? This was happening in.
But you could argue that it's
what if we were intelligent, but in a way that was entwined with the world because we were being more conscious.
But it's talking about existentialism, isn't it? It's like challenging the reality that you think.
I mean,
you know.
this is a sci-fi thing. I'm thinking. I'm not saying this is for sure. It's a theory, but like, I just like to think that maybe that's what happened. Then basically, a technological world won.
Well, I think so even in now, like there's like. In like social consciousness, there are like huge, like multiple things that are going on all at once. So even in a capitalist society or socialist society, it's never going to be purely like 100% socialist or capitalist or communist or whatever. It's going to be a multitude of. There'll be like pulls and like in multiple directions.
It's never going to be a perfect thing anyway. They were fucking cannibals. They used to kill each other by the millions. Didn't
Wait,
they?
who's this now?
Like the Aztecs and stuff, right? Or something.
So yeah, but
I'm probably way wrong. Is this still recording?
I think so. Yeah. George, we've rambled.
Yeah, we're way off topic.
Have you? Did we talk about the app at all?
Yeah, we did actually.
No,
Yeah.
no, we didn't. We did.
Oh, you didn't talk about the app?
Oh, we talked about the concept of the app. We just...
Oh my god.
No, we talked about the Aztecs.
we went away.
Right, we are going to get to the app in the next round when we don't drink.
Oh man, we started.
Mate.
Way off topic. We started about ancient civilizations.
1:43 to be fair.
This is what happens when you
Edit
leave
it down
us.
to 15 minutes.
So the
Guys,
Aztecs.
yeah, it's about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Well done, guys. Westival, congrats again. Another, so far so good. Second night tonight.
That's descended. You need to.
Looking forward to it.
You need to really listen to that.
I will, of course I will. I'll listen to all my podcasts.
Maybe that's ended.
And then yeah, sweet. Well, it should be good tonight. Should be good.
It's late.
What's the plan tonight, chaps?
Get on the parties.
Nice.
I'm up for the parties.
Bit of partying tonight.
I'm gonna
Tomorrow,
do some dancing stuff.
tomorrow morning, another sea swim. Tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, man. Let's make that.
I think the sea so far today, going in that sea
100%.
was incredible.
Have to do
You
that.
were going to say the best bit, weren't you? You were going to say it was the highlight of today, and then
So
you
far.
guys were just shitting on the whole podcast. So fuck you.
Whoa.
Go back to the
I didn't even go there, Craig.
Do you know what? That's even worse than going to the bar and not getting one person.
Yeah, I like Craig way more than you now, Kerry.
And on that note, that's Kerry's introduction to the podcast. Cheers, mate. That was awesome.
Bankwood Bear Productions.
Cheap and chill.